Alright, let's get the first vid going. Holy shit, this is kind of expected though.
Have here in the United States, what makes it tick, and what we want to do with it. Let's start with you, and what you want.
Me?
What does anybody want? Do you think you're different from other people? Millions have worshipped the strong man, the leader. Millions let somebody else decide what they want. They worked, fought, died for government by strong men, by fear, by force.
Und damit unser deutscher Volk und Vaterland.
Yeah, the dictator. No, not everybody agrees. Over here, we don't like dictators. We don't worship the strong man. We worship as we please. Our government represents us, the people. Our government is our servant, not our master. We can work, we can fight too, that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. That's what Lincoln said. Not that everybody agreed even then. Lincoln was shot, remember? Any government has a lot of power, but keep in mind that the power can come from the top down or from the bottom up. And it makes a lot of difference to you, what you can do and what you can't do, where and how you live and work. Let's start from there, where we live and work, what we have in the United States. One worker out of 5 lives close to the land on our 6 million farms and ranches.
Pretty well put together.
Big ones, little ones, all kinds. 4 workers out of 5 work away from the land in almost 4 million other places. Big plants, small plants, peanut stands, offices. Altogether, that makes about 10 million places where we can work and make a living. How we work and how we live makes all the difference in what we have in the United States. But how did we get what we have? Suppose just for a moment that we didn't have our 6 million farms and ranches. Let's get rid of
Definitely not 6 million
all
now.
of them. Okay, no more farms or ranches. Now, let's get rid of industry too. Then we won't have to worry about that. Fine, no more industry, no more places to work. While we're at it, let's go all the way. Let's wipe out all cities, towns, homes, everything. Now what? Well, now we're starting the hard way, close to old Mother Nature. You and everybody else on Earth have some things in common. You want to stay alive. To stay alive, you have to have food. You have to have some shelter against the elements. You want to be as comfortable as you can. So let's start with this common problem and see what it takes.
What are we going to do?
Better find somewhere to go. There's going to be a storm any minute. Give me the baby. Come on.
Which one is this? This is In Our Hands Part 1. We got what we had. And I'm kind of eating my dinner while watching this one.
Oh, take it easy, honey.
It's so cold. Could you build a fire, Tom?
Sure. Gee, I don't seem to have any matches. Don't worry, we'll work out something. Looks like this might blow over. You stay here. I'll go out and see what I can find.
Don't go far, Tom.
I got pizza tonight. It's been like
There, darling.
3 weeks since I had
know you're
pizza.
hungry.
How How long do you think she can feed that baby unless she gets some food herself? Not long.
About 3 days.
How long could you stay alive dumped into a real wilderness? Most people would starve to death. And yet, it's funny, isn't it? It's all
There are so many
there.
things
Sun,
that you could
air,
actually
soil,
eat that
water,
people don't eat.
Minerals, metals. It's all right there. But how to get at it? Let's say you're lucky to start with. You find some
Bro.
water so you won't die of thirst.
That water is not good for you.
No, but I need food.
Food, shelter, and comfort.
Food, yeah. I'm all right on that other stuff.
You are now. But where are you going to get another shirt when that one wears out?
Well, I don't know. But I'm not going to worry about that now.
When the snow starts to fly, you'll worry about it.
Plenty. I'm going to have a look around.
Tom has what any man has to work with, his brains and his muscles. So he goes to work with what he has. Put yourself in his place. Let's say you're lucky. You find some roots you can eat. You find some berries. A couple of days go by and you're still alive, but it's a full-time job. Let's say you're very lucky. You find some fish just when they're spawning. They're helpless. Now, this probably wouldn't happen to you, but let's make it easy. Let's say you get a couple of fish the way a bear does.
Are your bare hands?
Man, look what I got.
Oh,
I just flipped them out.
I'm so hungry I could almost eat them raw.
I don't know. Want to try?
I can't. I can't.
Gee, if we just had a knife. Hey. Isn't that smoke?
Oh, Tom.
Sure it's smoke. There must be somebody over there. Wait here, I'll go and see.
Where'd you come from?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
You got a fire. I wanted a fire, but I didn't have any matches. How'd you do it?
It took me long enough to get going. I've been trying to do this ever since I found myself here. I started like this. See? Then I took my shoelace and did it this way.
Gee, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that knife. Where'd you get it?
I found the antler. I made it by rubbing it against the rocks.
Say, how about letting me use it?
Wait a minute. What do you want it for? You got some food?
My wife and baby are just down the valley. We've been living on roots and things, but I got a couple fish.
You have? How big?
Oh, about like that. Nice ones.
Man, I'm so hungry I can hardly stand it. I've been working against time. I got a weak stomach and I figured I can't eat stuff raw. Look, let me buy one of those fish.
What with?
What do you think? Oh, well, I guess I haven't got any money.
What would I do with money around here?
What's the runtime on this? I didn't even look,
Let's
man.
put it this way. You give me a
21
fish,
minutes.
I'll let you use my knife and cook on my fire. How's that?
Wait a minute. Maybe I'll never find another fish.
Listen, I gotta get something to eat. I'm so hungry, I'm sick, I've been working. Where are they? Back with your wife?
Don't get any idea.
I offered you a fair swap.
Give me that knife.
I'll give it to you right in the belly.
Damn, they going at it. Old-timey stuff. Old-timey stuff. That's what this fight is.
Stop it! You'll kill each other! What's come over you, Tom? Rude men acting like savage!
Tom's fighting for his life. So is the
Acting
other.
like a savage.
Let's go back and see what this is all about. If you were thrown into a wilderness without a match or a knife or any tool, you'd be right smack up against nature. You'd be just the same muscles, the same brains, and without tools, you might stay alive for a while. You might find some kind of shelter. You'd have to have food and shelter, and you'd want some comforts. To improve your situation, you'd have to take time out to make some tools. You can't be looking for food and make a knife at the same time. It takes work and time to get fire or any other tool. Incidentally, from now on, when we talk about tools, we mean anything that helps you get more food or shelter or comforts and helps you get them more easily.
Have History Channel and
Getting
Nat
food
Geo
or
reality
shelter
shows like this.
is a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
And once you get something,
Naked and Afraid
and
is what this
somebody
is
else
like.
has something, you come up against the idea of swapping, of barter.
Why can't we swap? One fish for the use of my knife and my fire.
Well, what's wrong with that?
I'd like to keep both fish. They need that knife and the fire. Okay, it's a deal.
Just work together,
Life
bro.
depends on food. And to fill your stomach, to put a shirt on your back or some kind of a roof over your head, there are only 3 things to work with: natural resources, your human energy, and tools. That's true anywhere, any place, anytime. Let's bring this out in another way. Everything in nature was here long ago. All the coal, the iron, the forests, the oil, the water, the land. Why didn't the Indians do more with it? The Indians had to have food, shelter, comforts. Didn't they raise better food, build better homes? Why didn't the Indians do more with all this? They had some tools. They knew how to make fire. They used fire to clear land. When the growth was burnt off, the Indian women planted corn like this, with a clam shell and a hoe made from the shoulder blade of a deer. Yes, they had tools, Stone Age tools, but they never improved
Interesting.
their tools. And as a result, they couldn't improve their production of food, shelter, and comforts. Compare this with the pioneer farmers. Crude as the early wooden plows were, they worked better than animal bones or clamshells. Yes, they had tools, but the important thing is they improved their tools. They shod them with iron, and now we make them from steel. Powerful tractors pull them down the fields. If this farmer had lived when the country was young, it would have taken 9 farmers like him to free 1 man from the land. With a better use of brains and muscles, better use of nature, and above all, with more and better tools, the modern farmer can free 15 or 20 men from the land. That's a pretty good example of what we have. Something happened in this country to produce a titanic upsurge in human energy and spirit, to produce more and better tools, to produce more and better food, shelter, and comforts. What was it? What helped us get what we have? Let's start at the beginning. The founders of the country didn't have tractors or television sets or automobiles, but they did have a mighty faith in God and a big revolutionary idea about
That is
people.
true.
They thought governments ought to be the servant, not the master of
Yep.
ordinary people like you and me.
That's how it used to be.
Have you ever read the Declaration of Independence? Men risked their lives for the principle that in this country, at least, we the people take our rights from God and set up a government to preserve and protect our individual rights. Think that over. The signers of the Declaration of Independence declared their belief that we are endowed by our Creator with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which nobody, no person, no group, no political party, not even our government, can take away from us. This farmer has certain unalienable rights, responsibilities, and obligations, which are his birthright under the law. This worker has the same rights, responsibilities, and obligations which are his birthright under the law. These workers can challenge their government, which is ordered to protect their rights. And these aren't idle words. On July 4th, 1776, we declared our independence. In 1788, we ratified our Constitution. And to this day, every officer, law, and division of American government has existed solely for the purpose of protecting our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
When
When
was
you
this
read the
come out?
Constitution of the United States, notice it starts off with, "We, the people."
Yep.
And it's the oldest instrument of government in continuous use. Our government is divided into two parts, state
More
and
people should be
federal.
watching this kind of thing.
And each part is subdivided
Um,
into legislative,
yeah.
executive, and judiciary.
They would learn
Each
more
branch
about the
independent.
government
This
for
was not
sure.
done for efficiency. It was done deliberately to keep anybody or anything from taking away our individual freedom. Now, let's look at the map. The federal government was to handle the national problems. The united but individual states were to handle their own problems, just as each county, city, town, and village was to handle its local problems. Problems like fire protection, police protection, protection of the streets and highways, protection and development of citizenship through public education. Things like this are the concern of state and local government. We, the people, have given our federal, state, and local governments a limited power, but we have ordered them, remember, to use that power to protect our individual freedoms. Our rights are only limited when it's for the public good. Like when you're driving along a public street. Traffic changes. You stop. You don't even think about it. But you stopped because we gave government, represented by the police officer, the right to make a stop to let the other people go through. Then, when you get the signal, it's your turn to go ahead. Limitations of our rights? Sure. But for the public good. And that's the way our country has gone ahead. Just what does liberty or individual freedom mean to you? Freedom to do what? There's New York. Just what freedoms do the people down there have? And what difference does it make? How about San Francisco? Chicago. Is life in Chicago any different from life in Moscow, Shanghai, Paris, or any other city? Is this any different from a town of the same size in some other part of the world? There's a great difference, and it starts with the great gift of freedom. Here's a farm. 2 out of 3 farms like this are run by their owners. In other words, here's what we mean by freedom. Farmers are free to save, free to invest their savings, to buy and own their own farm, their own tools, their own stock, free to produce, to make a profit or a loss. It takes time, takes work, takes management, takes saving, takes careful buying and selling. It took this farmer 20 years to build up this herd, but it was worth the effort. Nobody can fool this man about what it means to own your own farm or to build your own herd. He knows where his tools came from and what a difference they make. He started out milking by hand. Now he does it this way and doesn't have to work so hard. And he produces more and better milk and cream. He gets more out of it. And so do all the rest of us. Don't sell freedom short. Freedom to work, to grow things, to make things. Freedom to buy and sell. Freedom to save and invest. We have these great freedoms in this country. You have them. Today, as you may know, we live on about 1/16 of the land area of the world. For every square mile we have, others have 15. For every worker we have, Others have about 15. As far as nature and manpower go, the odds against us are about 15 to 1. Let's get this straight. All around the world, men want the same things: food, shelter, and comforts. And naturally, selfishly want all they can get. You do. I do. Everybody has this in common. All of us must use what we can find in nature, our own manpower, and the tremendously productive power of tools. Yet in our 10 million workplaces, with odds of 15 to 1 against us, we have half the productive power on Earth. That didn't just happen. There's a good reason why we have the best workers, the tools on Earth. Why we're about 8 to 1 better off than the rest of the whole world.
He
How do you
used
think
to
this came
have
be?
that much workers.
What makes us tick? Let's talk about how we got what we have in these United States and what it means.
Oh, that's the end of that one. Okay. I think that one had a part 2. Yeah. In our hands, part 2, what we have. And yeah, Chicago today is a completely different story than what it was. I don't want to do this.
Tom, what do you want for breakfast?
What'd you say?
What do you want for breakfast?
I don't care.
Do you want it hot or cold?
I can't hear you.
Never mind.
He want that juicy hot pussy. That's what he
Why
want.
can't he make up his mind? Oh, well.
While she gets Tom's breakfast, let's take a closer look at that pan. The iron ore for that pan came from the Mesabi Range. So let's start there and see what happened. Maybe it'll give us an idea.
Oh
of
yeah,
just what
okay.
it
This
is
is
we
gonna
have.
show us how all the different
Nature
things
put the
are
iron ore there, but it
made
wasn't
and
worth
shit.
anything until
This
men
is actually
came
a really
along.
good one.
Men with tools. These are the best workmen and the best tools on Earth.
This is something people need to see every day too,
As you look at what it
because
takes to make one steel pan,
this ain't
think about
exactly,
why these men are so much better. Why their
common
tools
knowledge anymore.
are so
you know?
much better. You can't make a pan only with iron ore. You need coal. You need other raw materials. Limestone must be quarried.
Part 3 is important for what's happening today. That'll be next.
It takes a lot of know-how to make iron and steel. Coal must be reduced to coke before it can be used. You need fluorspar, manganese, scrap iron, scrap steel. It takes all of this and more just to produce the basic steel. This is what men can do if you give them a chance. Give them economic freedom. Economic freedom in this country means that you and everybody else is free to work, to make things, to produce. That's one part of it. You're free to buy and
We'll
sell.
say
to
that
make
the
a
steel
profit
mills are still
or a
going strong
loss.
today.
That's the second part.
That's about the only
And you're
thing we
free
still
to
make
save and to
regularly in
invest
America.
in more and better tools. That's the third part. And it all adds up to the great gift of economic freedom. Keep it in mind as you watch these men and their tools.
And we've developed
come a
more
long
kinds of
way
steel
from
since this
nature,
film? Probably.
But those sheets still have
Yeah,
to
we
be
have,
shipped
actually.
somewhere before you can manufacture the pan.
There's a lot of different types of steel.
Let's see what happens next.
At least 5 that I can Let me combo this.
All right, now the pan is about ready to be offered for sale. A lot of labor is already invested in that pan. But you can't see the men who made it or all the tools they used. You can't see the thousands and thousands of people whose savings are invested in those tools. You can't see a thing like freedom either. But it's there. The great gift of freedom. Freedom to work, to make things, to produce. Freedom to buy and sell, to bargain freely, to exchange what we have for what we want. Freedom to save and to invest in the tools that multiply our productive power. He didn't have to display that pan or try to sell it, but he's free to try. Just as Midge didn't have to come into this store. She was free to make her own private individual choice. Free to be ruthless in her search for more and better goods and services at lower prices. But she decided to come into this particular store to look for a pan. That isn't the only pan. She has a choice of iron, steel, copper bottoms, aluminum. But she selected this particular one. Now, here's what really happens. At the time she buys this pan, she has hired all the workers and all the tools clear
And
back
that
to the mine.
right there is a concept that people just can't fathom.
What she is able and willing to pay for that pan has to pay all the costs all the way back to nature, including the cost of something
I'm gonna pause
else
this for
you
a
can't
minute.
see.
Just because this is an idea that a lot of people on the left cannot even fathom. And this is the reason why raising the minimum wage will never work. And it's simply because if you raise the minimum wage, let's say you have a worker and they make a nail, right? And their whole job is to make nails. Well, if you raise the minimum wage for that worker, well, you have to raise the wage for the supervisor as well, because the supervisor isn't making that much money off of this either. So now you got everybody's getting a pay raise across the board for that nail factory. And then the shipping costs are going to go up because you have to pay the truckers more because they have to have something, you know, to do as well. So the 1 penny nail that was a 1 penny nail, after you do all these pay raises to get it shipped from the nail factory to the store, and then the store owner at the end also has to have a higher minimum wage, mind you. You're looking at 5 different people that touched this one nail that had to have a pay raise because of a minimum wage. So that 1 penny nail will not be a 1 penny nail anymore. It's going to be like a 10-cent nail, because you have all these extra people that have to have pay raises to still satisfy the one small thing. Anyway.
The cost of government. And the cost of government, remember, is paid by all the direct and indirect
Explains
taxes
economics
you
in
pay.
one sentence. Yep.
Well, now we know something about where the pan came from. How about the eggs? Well, let's see. Nature supplied the land, but men made it produce the feed for those chickens. You can go
Look
into
at all
that
those
business if you want to.
chickens.
That's what economic freedom means.
And go back to the trucker who delivered the raw materials to the people who mined it in the process. Exactly. You have to keep going back and back and back all the way to the miner. You right. You are 100% right, Frog.
When Tom bought the eggs, he employed all the tools, all the workers, all the way back to the farm. Tom had to work with tools to earn enough to buy that pan. He had to work with tools to earn enough to buy the eggs. He used money as the transfer agent. Now, you can't eat money or fry eggs in it, but it's important. And it's easy to be fooled about money. How about it, Tom? What can you do with your take-home pay?
Give it to Midge. If I didn't, she'd bat my ears down.
And I would, too.
Well, that's all right. Now, let's look into what money is and what it does. Take Tom. He works near the end of an assembly line and gets paid in dollars and cents for work with tools
And chicken
and
get
with
dick, of
materials
course.
supplied to him.
Of course.
In other words, one way to earn money is through work using your brains and muscles, your skills, your know-how, for so many dollars and cents. Money has no fixed value. It has no value except at the moment you buy something with it. For example, you've seen the price of eggs jump around. Sometimes half a dollar will buy a dozen eggs, sometimes more than a dozen.
I wish it was half
Sometimes
a
less.
dollar.
In other words, your take-home pay is worth what you can buy with it when you buy it. And what you pay for anything, remember, has to cover all the costs of producing it, transporting it, and selling it, plus taxes which must be paid to operate the federal, state, and local governments.
Yeah, but I didn't have to buy these eggs. If they get too high, we don't eat eggs.
That's your privilege, so long as you live in a free country. You didn't have to buy this house either.
That was my idea.
It means something to own your own home. Not that I own it yet.
Nobody told you you had to buy it, or that you couldn't buy it either.
We figure that every dollar we put into this house is just like saving a dollar.
The house is real, but the dollar value, and don't forget this, is what somebody will pay you for it when you want to sell it or rent it.
We don't want to rent it.
That's what's nice to know you could if you had to.
That's the second way you can get paid.
How do you mean?
There are 2 ways to earn money. You can be paid for work, any kind of work that produces goods or services, or you can be paid for the use of something you saved and bought, something you own, private property. To get the tools and the materials you work with, the conveyor belts and all the rest of what it takes to build an assembly line, millions of people like you saved and invested their savings in stocks and bonds. And it was their savings.
FML
that
should
made
be here.
these tools
He should.
possible.
He'd learn something.
This was the money that bought the land, built the buildings, and provided all the facilities, power, running water, and thousands of other things that people ordinarily don't think about. All of these things are tools. And tools always come from the investment of savings. Let's put it this way. If you rented a room in your house, or the whole house, would you expect to be paid for it?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
If you saved and invested some money in your company, would you expect to be paid?
Oh, sure. Only I don't have that kind of money.
You've got a life insurance policy, haven't you?
Yeah?
Savings account in the bank?
Yes, a little one.
That's not like buying stock.
What do you think the insurance company or the bank, for instance, does with money?
Use it. Invest it, I guess.
That's right. Money is a medium of exchange, a transfer agent. They take your money and buy an interest in private property, the tools you work with, so that every dollar you save goes freely to work. The fact that most people in this country have life insurance, a bank account, stocks, or bonds means that practically all of us have invested in the tools that produce the goods and services and comforts our lives depend on. That's how we get our tools. That's what happens with economic freedom. The farmers work close to nature, and most of them supply the manpower too, both management and labor. They know where their tools come from and what it takes to maintain them, to replace them with more and better tools. What we have
This
in
is why I
country
bought
is so
farmland
good
first, by
and
the
so
way.
successful that too
I
many
actually
of us
own
just
about,
take it for granted. What we have
I don't even want to say
started
how
with the
much I
official
have.
purpose of
Let's
our
just
limited
say I have
government,
enough
and
farmland
it grew
to support my
because of our
family
hard-won gift of freedom.
and not have any
Real
issues.
individual freedom protected by law.
And it's good to
and
know
the
that I have
secret
that kind of land.
The best workmen and the best tools on earth. And the most democratic way of getting more and better tools. Not through forced savings and forced labor. We're free to save and to invest in productive property, in the tools that multiply our total production of goods and services. 10 million workplaces where we're free to work, to make things, to produce, free to buy or sell, to make a profit or a loss, free to try out new ideas, new products, new methods, free to get more and still better tools which multiply our total production, shorten our work hours, and keep lifting our standard of living. We have plenty of problems, but with all the things we don't do, with all our mistakes, we do have political and economic freedom. And we're far better off than the rest of the world. That's what
Damn
we
right.
have.
Even
and it's
today,
worth
with
talking
all of our
about.
issues, we still better than the
Let's
rest of the
talk
world.
about just exactly what we have in these United States and what it means to you.
All those ignorant shits who complain about capitalism. Yep. All right, that's number 2. Number 3. In our hands, how to lose what we have. Oh, this is probably very relevant to today, then. Damn, Frog. I didn't think you were serious. Getting a drink? Okay,
Now
Frog.
that we have seen what we have in the United States, let's talk about how to lose it. Just what would have to change to be sure to lose what we have. Suppose this is the night before a national election. Suppose you sat in this room and saw and heard this.
Let me sum it up this way. You are going to vote tomorrow in an election which will do one of two things. Keep our limited government with its constitutional freedoms, rights, and responsibilities, or change them for unlimited government and a planned economy.
We've already amended the Constitution dozens of times. Let's throw it away for a master plan run by a master state.
Would you care to reply to that?
I certainly would.
That sounds horrible.
At this time, there are some 10 million workplaces in the United States where we're free to make 10 million plans. We're free to try any new idea, new product, new service, a new anything. But we're all human beings, all be right. But we have free choice. We're free to try to make a profit, to just get by, or to fail. Some of us do fail every day. But enough of us succeeds every generation. We double our production of goods and services. Under a master plan, only be one plan. With just one plan, there wouldn't be any room for a mistake. If anything went wrong with a master plan, the result would be a national disaster. And every man, woman, and child would suffer.
Wait a minute. We know all we need to know about how to produce things. What we don't seem to know anything about is distribution. We haven't solved such things as full employment, real security, from each according to his ability and to each according to his need.
Sure, that sounds good.
I recognize
But how
that
are you going to
quote.
do it?
We're already on our way. We've partly socialized incomes. We're going ahead and socialize property, too. Let the people own the means of production, transportation, and communication. Let the people have full employment and full security.
But what price freedom? You talk about full security, full employment. Why, you can have that in a penitentiary. I'm here tonight because I believe in the right of an individual to be able to choose the kind of job he wants, with the company he wants to work for, in the part of the country he wants to live in. Yes, sir, freedom of choice right down to the brand of cigarettes he smokes or doesn't smoke. Government can't control everything without controlling me, what I can say and what I can't say. And I mean police control that tells me where I'll work, where I'll live, and all the rest of it.
Just words. The people know what they want. Vote against the old, ruthless, sick American economy with its private property and its so-called free competitive enterprise. Vote for the master state with the master plan.
Oh
Our time
my.
is almost up. But tomorrow you'll be
Okay,
able to vote to keep
socialism.
what we have, or to change for a total economy where everything will be run according to a master plan. For or against the master state, under the master plan. Thank you, and good night.
Well,
Quick punch
What
to
do
the
you think?
dickhead
I'm for it.
economy in the face and
I'm
mug
tired of
him.
being kicked around.
I think it sounds wonderful.
He said it would mean full employment. That's something.
Just think what that means.
Full security. Why shouldn't the government take care of us?
I'm afraid I don't understand it very well.
Well, the way I get it, everything will be planned, and the whole country will run according to the plan.
What's wrong with that? They talk about free enterprise.
You won't be able to
Private enterprise.
use any of
I'm
your
sick of
own
listening to 'em.
ideas.
I'm going to vote for it.
Well, I am, that's for sure.
I guess I will too.
Labor force redisputed. Oh my
in some mass
goodness.
production industries are about to be quickly moved to new locations so that under the master plan, the right man will be in the right job at the right time.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
Here we are.
It's a nice home, Bob.
Yes, but I wonder how they're going to take it.
Hey, this your house?
Yeah.
Here. 2 families gonna live here. You're being transferred. See, it's all right
What do you
here.
mean? I'm not looking for another
Oh,
job.
how should I know?
Every
Don't
American
yap at
should
me,
watch this
brother.
part.
I don't
Yep.
get it.
So you don't get it.
Ah, good morning.
Ask him. He's the party man.
Hey, what is this?
Well, this is correct.
Look, I like it here. I don't want another job.
Well, it may seem a little rough at first, but in the long run, it'll be better for everybody.
In the
When
long
the truck is unloaded, you can take your personal
run.
things, and we'll move you
Shut
and your
the fuck up.
family.
I live here. I work here.
Yes, I know, but that plant's been closed temporarily.
It has. You mean I've got to drive to another state right now?
Tom, where's that man? What's going on here?
We've got to move.
Move?
Haven't I got anything to say about this?
Well, what do you want to say?
Well, I've got some right.
Of course you have. Okay, come on, folks. We need your house for 2 families now. And they'll use your car, too.
What?
You'd better start now to get your things together. Okay, folks,
Wait.
inside.
In the car? Like, bro.
Now, don't be worried. You'll only be
We're
out
just
in the
gonna take
carpet for
all
a day
your
or two.
belongings.
Wait a minute! You can't do this to me!
Government can't control everything without controlling me. What I can say and what I can't say. And I mean police control that tells me where I'll work, where I'll live, and all the rest of it.
We've worked so hard. Now we've lost our house.
And
car.
the thing
I
is,
didn't even get a chance
the
to
commies don't care because they're going to get the benefits from it.
Tom, what's happening to us?
That's the biggest
They will
issue.
get
with it.
government certificates.
They'll
for
get the
all
benefits in
private
short
property.
term, mind you. They'll get the benefits in the short term.
Court or go to somebody?
In the long term, it's just bad for everybody.
Say, how far does this go?
About 300 miles.
But that's the reason why
I mean
commies
this
go
plan.
for this shit.
Oh, the plan.
It's like what the Soviet Bolsheviks did in 1917 and 1919.
Don't be like that.
Eesh.
You're gonna like it, see?
You're gonna like it, see?
I'm gonna like it.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, why not?
Our baby, she's never been baptized. Does that mean that...
Look, I'm not a full party member. I'm just driving this truck. I don't know what they're gonna do about churches and stuff like that. But you better button your lip. Just remember it's all part of the plan.
It's
What are
all
you
part of the
yelling about? You
plan,
voted
see?
for it.
Of course, it would never happen this way. Real freedoms are eaten up a little at a time while government controls are slipped on, while the real power is collected into a few hands. Where government is not limited, no man is free. Change limited government to unlimited government, and our rights would be only what the master planners say they are. No longer the servant of the people, government would be the master of the people. That's the way to change what we have, take all power and all freedoms away from the people, and collect everything into the hands of one small group with absolute power. But
And
think
there
about
you have
this.
communism.
We would have the same manpower, the same brains and muscles we had before, but without our present incentives and opportunities. And that would change something else.
The nature of
always come
who
from
we
savings.
are.
Government has nothing it does not take away from the people. With unlimited government, whether they wanted to or not, force would have to be used to take away our savings, just to get the tools they must have to carry on production. It's the difference between force and freedom. Nobody in his or her right mind would willingly sacrifice freedom for the iron discipline of a regimented state. It can't allow individual freedom.
But people
such as
do
our
want
free
that,
choice as customers.
unfortunately.
In a free economy, we are all each other's customers.
And it shocks
Every
me
farmer and
every
rancher is
single
free to
day
farm
to
or
find
not
out
to
that people
farm.
do want
Free
the
to work
freedom
for
taken
himself
away
or for somebody else.
just to.
Free to save and
And
buy
I
his
was
own
saying
land,
this
his own
during the whole
seed,
COVID thing
to
too.
invest in more and
Our
better
freedoms
tools.
were
Free to
100%
sell what he
taken
produces
away.
for a profit or a loss.
And people were happy
Every
for
worker
it.
in
They
this country has the right to
legitimately were
live
happy
and
for it.
worship and work
What is
as
that?
he
What
chooses.
the fuck?
It's as simple and fundamental as the right of workers to work and to bargain for their wages and working conditions. The right of management workers to manage, savers to invest. And the right of all of us freely to buy and sell. All this is part of what we have. Freedom for all is the key. We have the fastest growing, most powerful union labor force on earth. We have the best management on earth. The power of our freedom reaches all of us. We'll take up more of our great problems later. But when you look around and think about what we have, don't forget for a moment that we do have more individual freedom. We're better clothed. We're more comfortable. We're further from starvation than the whip of the police state. We're far better off than the rest of the world. We have our great men and women, and we have some flannel-mouthed fools, too. We all want to live in a better world. We all want to have more. But there's no mystery about what we have or how to lose it. Let's look straight into this one.
So very easy to lose.
Let's talk about how to lose what we have and what that would mean to you.
Oh, that was the end of that one? Okay. Number 4. Let's go. In our hands. How to keep what we have.
The United States of America. Take a good look at the map. You remember that for every square mile we have, there are 15 more in the rest of the world. For every worker we have, there are 15 more in the rest of the world. The odds against us are about 15 to 1 in land and in workforce. Only about 1 out of 5 workers in our country is on our 6 million farms and ranches. But they produce enough to feed all of us. And
Used to be able to feed all of us. That doesn't happen anymore.
Remember, altogether we have about half the productive power of the whole world.
You gotta throw that
With an
caveat in
economy
there.
of this size, naturally we have great problems. Do you know what our biggest problems are and what you want done about them? Let's look them over. We declared our independence way back in 1776. We said officially that we take our rights from God and that we, the people, will keep the power of government in our hands. The main purpose of our limited government is to secure our rights. While we have amended our Constitution many times, we have not changed that purpose. Do you think we should? Do you think we should change the democracy of our republic for the dictatorship of a regimented state? Do you think you'd be better off with unlimited government by fear and force? In other words,
So
should government be
obvious.
the servant?
This is
or the
propaganda
master
against
of the people?
communism here.
So far, you have a free choice.
That's
But do
so
you
blatantly
care?
obvious.
Does it make a difference to you?
Ay.
Of course it does. The difference is so big that you have to live it to really appreciate it. The people down there aren't so different from other people around the world, but they have something that's hard to get and easy to lose, and they have it right in their own hands, the great gift of freedom. We all want a better world. We want all we can get. Why not? That's the #1 problem of every living human being in the world. And there are always only 3 things to work with. The first thing is natural resources, the land, the soil, and everything underneath it and on top of it. The second thing is manpower, our own brains and muscles. The third thing is tools. That's all there is. Nature, manpower, and tools. How you live depends on how we manage those 3 things. For instance, the American Indian have the same chance we have at our natural resources. Same soil, and underneath it the same iron ore, coal, oil, gas. All the rest of it, including all that we've used. He had some tools, but they weren't very good. And this is the important difference. He didn't improve his tools. A whole tribe of Indians couldn't produce as much food as this one farmer can today. We have improved all 3 things, and we've just started. We make a better use of our natural resources. We have improved the skills and opportunities of our manpower, and we have steadily improved and increased the productive power of our tools. It's easy to see how it works on a farm. Let's ask a farmer.
Well, as far as manpower is concerned, that's me. This is a family farm, and I'm the manager and the hired hand and everything else. I'm the guy that decided to go in for conservation, for instance. It pays off. Well, I suppose that's working with nature. As far as tools go, well, everything from the milk pail to the farm itself. I had to save enough to buy them, and then take care of them, and then save enough to replace them when they wear out. And beyond that, I have to save enough to carry me through the bad years. And when it comes to taxes, well, I'm the guy that pays them too. And it all has to come, and it does come, out of what I can get for what I produce.
To this day, still
Well, I gotta get
do
back
all
to
of that.
It all depends on how we use our natural
That's why it's
resources,
really hard to be
our
a
human
farmer
energy,
nowadays,
and on how we
because
get and
big
improve
corporations
our
want your
tools.
land,
But we're so
and
specialized in this country that
the
it's hard to
government
realize
basically
how
makes
much
it
we depend on each
easy
other.
to do.
It's a problem because we all want all we can get, and we all want to give as little as possible for it. For instance, Tom, do you like a good thick steak?
What'd you say?
Do you like a good thick steak?
Sure, I like a good steak.
Would you like steaks to be bigger and juicier and thicker and cheaper?
You can say that again.
How about it?
Now, wait a minute. I raise beef cattle.
You want as much as you can get for them, don't you?
Don't you?
How about refrigerators or farm equipment? Would you like to have better equipment all the way around and cheaper?
Well,
Fucking Tom,
now
definitely
you're speaking
supposed.
my language.
Yep.
Wait a minute. You cut the price of these refrigerators too much, and what happens to me?
Well, you cut the price of beef too much. What happens to me?
What about me?
What about all of us as customers? You're no different from anybody else. When you go to buy something, you want as much as you can get for as little as you can give. And when you sell something, you want to get as much for it as you can. And you're free in this country to bargain back and forth and to buy and sell, to make a profit or a loss. But keeping this freedom so it's fair both ways, that's a real problem. The next time you buy something, think about this. Maybe the best way to put it is to remember that progress in human welfare always depends on the better use of natural resources, human energy, and tools. But to keep and improve what we have to keep our individual freedom to work, to make things, to produce, our freedom to save and invest in the tools that multiply the output of our manpower. If you have some life insurance or have a bank account, you've already helped yourself get more and better tools, so your work will be easier and much more productive. When we talk about tools, remember, we mean more than hand tools, more than power tools. We mean the buildings, the land they stand on, all the equipment, all the facilities, anything and everything that helps us get more real production and get it more easily. We have the best workmen and the best tools. We are the most productive nation, and that very fact is a problem in itself. It's as big as the world. Since a 1/16 of the world produces half the world's goods and services, we're sure to have a lot of problems. Problems of getting raw materials like iron ore, tin, copper, lead, zinc, manganese, not to mention coffee, tea, rubber, silk, and countless other things. This adds up to a big international problem of trading what we have for what we need all the way around the world. Right here in the United States, we have great problems, not only of steady employment, steady production, of food, shelter, and comforts, but we have great problems of sectional and social inequalities, real problems of security and human welfare. But don't forget that the answer to these problems depends on what happens to our 10 million workplaces, where we're free to make an individual decision, to try out a new idea, a new product, to make a profit or a loss. 10 million places with freedom of choice, so successful that we double our standard of living every generation. We have the problem.
That's not
of
true
keeping
anymore.
what we have and improving it.
I wish it was, but
Giving
it's not true
some
anymore.
Small group an unlimited power and letting them tell us where and how we can live, work, speak, or worship. To protect us, we have the secret ballot. Nobody can look over your shoulder when you vote. When you step behind that curtain and write out your own personal choice, you're alone with your conscience and your God. If you have any doubt about how good all this is, think of the rest of the world. Look back at what we have from over there. Take Ellis Island, for example. Why do you think so many millions and millions of people are trying so desperately to get over here? They'd trade places with us right now. We're free to leave, but some countries have bars and iron curtains just to keep their citizens where they are. That tells us something about this country and other countries. We have great problems. The problem of war and the problem of peace. The problem of keeping and improving what we have. Some people would like to change
Overpopulation decreases per capita resources.
How do you feel about the purpose of our government?
I still wouldn't say we're overpopulated,
government by
though.
law and government with our consent? Government which preserves our real freedom?
To say we're overpopulated is to say that
kind of government, even unlimited total
people's mouths can't be
where
fed,
no man is
and
free.
we produce enough
Men
food
made
here
what
in
we
America.
Men can change
Honestly,
or
to
destroy it.
feed the entire
The way
world.
we meet our problems today may in the not too distant future decide between a dictatorship or a democracy. It's in our
They actually
hands.
throw away more food in
We
America
still
than
have a free choice.
most
And
countries
while we still have a free choice,
are able to even feed
let's
their
talk
people.
about it and what it means
Kind
to
of
you.
ridiculous. Alright, that is that video. The world is overpopulated. Debatable. That is debatable. Alright, here's the next one.
You can roughly locate any community in the world,
Excuse me.
somewhere along a scale running all the way from democracy to despotism. One at the democracy end, another somewhere in the middle, and a third. Let's find out about despotism. This man makes it his job to study these things.
Well, for one thing, avoid the comfortable idea that the mere form of government can of itself safeguard a nation against despotism. Germany, under President Hindenburg, was a republic. And yet in this republic, an aggressive despotism took root and flourished under Adolf Hitler. When a competent observer looks for signs of despotism in a community, he looks beyond fine words and noble phrases.
One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Many observers have found that two workable yardsticks help in discovering how near a community is to despotism: the respect scale and the power scale.
A careful observer
Picking films at random? No, going backwards order actually.
citizens get an even break. As a community moves towards despotism, respect is restricted to fewer people. A community is low on a respect scale if common courtesy is withheld from large groups of people on account of their political attitudes. If people are rude to others because they think their wealth and position gives them that right, or because they don't like a man's race or his religion.
Wait, really? When was this put out?
Equal opportunity for all citizens to develop useful skills.
46.
One basis for rating a community on a respect scale. The opportunity to develop useful skills is important, but not enough. The equally important opportunity to put skills to use is a further test on a respect scale. A power scale is another important yardstick of despotism. It gauges the citizens' share in making the community's decisions. Communities which concentrate decision-making in a few hands rate low on a power scale and are moving towards despotism. Like France under the Bourbon kings, one of whom said, "The state, I am the state."
I am the state.
Ebb away in communities whose citizens allow power to become concentrated in the hands of bosses.
What I say goes, see? I'm the law around here.
The test of despotic power is that it can disregard the will of the people. It rules without the consent of the governed.
Kind of like what executive orders
The
do.
legal formalities of an election in measuring a community on the power scale to see if the ballot is really free. If the citizens can vote only the way they're told, a community approaches despotism. When legislatures become ceremonial assemblies only and have no real control over lawmaking, their community rates low on a power scale. In a downright despotism, opposition is dangerous, whether the despotism is official or whether it is unofficial.
The spread of respect and power in a community is influenced by certain conditions, which many observers measure by means of the economic distribution and information scales.
If a community's economic distribution becomes slanted, its middle-income groups grow smaller, and despotism stands a better chance to gain a foothold. Where land is privately owned, one sign of a poorly balanced economy is the concentration of land ownership in the hands of a very small number of people. When farmers lose their farms, they lose their independence. This one can stay on, but not as his own boss anymore. To the extent that this condition exists throughout a nation,
His Biden with his satanic anti-MAGA speech last week.
in communities which depend almost entirely
Yeah, that was bad.
on factory or mine,
That was just bad on so many levels. It was just bad. Bad optics, bad speech,
if this condition exists,
just bad political move in general because he's villainizing an entire political group,
despotism stands
which
a
is
good
pretty big, by the way.
Another sign of a poorly
And
balanced
growing in
economy
numbers.
is a taxation system that presses heaviest on those least able to pay.
All of that was just bad. That State of the Union was just
Income is
bad.
spent on necessities such as
It,
food.
you might as well have called it a
Taxes on such necessities
declaration of war,
small income hard.
'cause that's really what it is.
In the days of the salt tax, feudal despotisms were partly sustained by this and other effects. A community rates low on an information scale when the press, radio, and other channels of communication are controlled by only a few people, and when citizens have to accept what they're told. In communities of this kind, despotism stands a good chance. See how a community trains its teachers.
Bear this in mind. Young people cannot be trusted to form their own opinions. This business about open-mindedness is nonsense. It's a waste of time trying to teach students to think for themselves. It's our job to tell them.
And when teachers put such training into practice, despotism stands a good chance. These children are being taught to accept uncritically whatever they're told.
Which is what's happening in our colleges today.
How can you ask such a question? Have you got a textbook?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it say here that our law courts are always just?
Yes, ma'am.
Then how dare you question the fact? Sit down.
And so we aren't surprised.
Sit your ass down, son.
It must be true. I saw it in this book right here.
It must be true.
And if books and newspapers and the radio are efficiently controlled, the people will read and accept exactly what the few in
Which
control
is
want them to.
actually what's happening now, but technology is preventing that from actually happening.
Newspaper which breaks the government censorship
For a lot of
can be
people.
suspended.
There are people that are still brainwashed by it.
It's also possible for newspapers and other forms of communication
Interesting.
to be controlled by private interests.
I thought I told you to kill that story. It'll cost us a lot of advertising.
If that story goes out, I quit.
All right.
What sort of community do you live in? Where would you place it on a democracy-despotism scale? To find out, you can rate it on a respect scale and a power scale. And to find out what way it is likely to go in the future, you can rate it on economic distribution and information scales. The lower your community rates on economic distribution and information scales, the lower it is likely to rate on respect and power scales, and thus to approach despotism. What happens in a single community is the problem of its own citizens.
Some of these films be higher educational since they predate the 60s. Yeah, they are definitely that.
Because as communities go, so goes the nation.
That's the end of that one. That was pretty interesting. Your notes for this one intrigues me. Got fat, bicycle safety. Okay.
This story is about 10 rather close relations of ours who seem to get into almost exactly the same kind of trouble we do. All 10 of these jolly characters lived in the same neighborhood and were all good friends, generally speaking. Each of them had a bicycle, and each took care of his bicycle in exactly the took care of himself. One day, they held a group think and decided to have a picnic in a little park just 9 blocks away. Now, that doesn't sound far, but a lot can happen in 9 blocks, right? Well, sound off out there. I said right? Right. So, they all ran home and made themselves sandwiches. I know that doesn't sound too likely, but of course, human. Then they hurried back, all ready to go. Now, one of the 10 was a rather hungry type. His name was Slim Jim McGupney, and his picnic lunch was
Slim Jim!
What we call a portable banquet, right? Right. Slim knew that his big sack would be hard to handle, so he asked Orville Slump if he'd carry it for him. Orville had a basket on the rear of his bike. He was a good sort, and he answered, okay. Some of the others noticed this and asked him if he'd carry theirs, too. Orville answered graciously, well, I guess so. And naturally, everybody else did the same until Orville's rear basket looked like a chuck wagon. At last, they were ready to go, and at a given signal, they went. Now this is Rooty Toot Jasperson. He had the newest bike in the bunch, and he was as proud of it as he could be. He made it a point to
Why do
get
they
the
have
lead,
monkey
and there
masks
he
on?
intended to stay. It would seem that Rooty Toot was a slam-bang go-getter headed for big things in life, right? Right. But when you have to be first all the time, there are a few things you find you don't have time for. Such things as making hand signals. Oh, he knew very well that bike riders are supposed to signal just like auto drivers. Hand down for slow or stop. Hand up for right turn. Hand straight out for left turn. But pretty soon, he began to feel silly making so many signals to stay out in front. So he skipped one to rest his poor old tired arm. Just one signal, once. At this point, Rooty Toot Jasperson left the party.
He got ran over. From the reviews, it just sounded really weird. It's pretty weird. They all have monkey masks on. And they're just riding a bike.
This charming little thing was actually christened Tinkerbell McDillingfiddy. She's a sweet and lovely girl, but she has a rather poor memory. Sometimes she forgets to brush her teeth. Sometimes she leaves homework at home. And sometimes she forgets to look at traffic signals. Now she knows that she should. She knows that she should ride just like auto drivers drive. But she's so busy being happy all the time that her little thoughts tend to wander. And, oh, dear, dear, they're wandering again.
That is a tractor trailer. And she got ran over too. Okay.
Tinkerbell McDillingfiddy. She forgot now and then.
There must be some kind of social commentary in this. I no idea, bro.
Now, let me introduce Philip Flugel. He's a star athlete, the president of his class, an honor student, and he has the handsomest profile in school. Just look at it, will you? Now, Flug, as his friends call him, has one little flaw in his character. He is very easily bored. Right now, he's asking himself why everyone has to go up this side of the street. It's so samey. So, proving that even a class president can make mistakes, he decided to ride against traffic. Oh, he knows that auto drivers never do this, and that he should follow the very same traffic rules. But he's in the mood to do something different. Anyway, there are no policemen around to see him.
And he's roadkill. Fuck.
Philip Flugel is no longer bored.
Yeah, he's no longer alive either. Fuck.
You've probably wondered about this fellow on foot. Well, his name is Mosby Pomegranate. He is splendid in dramatics, but he works so hard memorizing his lines that he doesn't get around to a lot of other things. He never made it down to register his bike and get a license for it. He knows very well that a license makes it easy to find out who he is if he's in an accident, and makes the bike easy to trace if it's lost or stolen. That's his trouble. Last week, while he was rehearsing the lead in King Kong, someone rode off with his bike. He went to the police, but of course they couldn't help him since it had no license or registration. He stomped out of the police station angrily. and he's been stomping ever since.
You can register your bike? What? Right? Is this actually a thing that they could do?
Farewell, Moresby Pomegranate, victim of fallen arches.
Victim of fallen arches.
If you look carefully, you'll see Trigby Phipps. He's the smaller one in Eclipse, trying to make that bike go. His passenger is an old friend of ours, Slim Jim McGuffney. Slim Jim's bike recently collapsed from the effects of his diet, and Trigby, being a nice little fellow, agreed to ride him. Now, he knows that no auto driver would drive with a passenger in his lap. He also knows that you can't see ahead very well with someone on the handlebars, and that you can't control the bike well, and that you can't make signals either. Furthermore, it is tiring, right? Right.
It's so silly. I mean, it's telling you, like, the rules of the road and shit, which is awesome. That is actually something needed. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck?
So long, fellas. There seems to be a flaw in the buddy system. Meet Nellie Zweibach. She's as nice as can be on foot. But when she gets on that bike, sweet Nellie becomes terribly impatient with other people's driving. Although there are only a few left now, she's having trouble sharing the street with them. So Nelbert is about to make a decision she'd never make if she weren't angry. There she goes. There she goes. She knows that riding on the sidewalk isn't allowed in her city and many others, and that even where it is, pedestrians always have the right of way. But Nelbert's upset, and she'd like to know just one good reason why she shouldn't take over the sidewalk all to herself.
Is she about to run over some other people?
Nelbert Zweibach got her one good reason.
Well then. Yep, with little license plates too. Is that still a thing today, Frog? I don't think that's still a thing today.
Philbert Bagel. Philbert hates his old bike. He refuses to take care of it because his folks will probably give him.
Although it should still be a thing, honestly.
He has reason for taking care of a heap of junk, even if he made it that way himself. He will in a moment, though. You see, he doesn't know it, but he'll find out that there's not a shred of a brake left.
Oh no. That's a steamroller. That's a steamroller. You can't do it. No.
Philbert would be the first to agree that if it's worth riding, it's worth taking care of. Right? Right.
That's a little gruesome. I'm not gonna lie. That's a little gruesome. It's still funny though.
Quickly meet Stanislaw Higginbottom while you can. He's a nice boy, but he won't be with us long.
Monkey goes squish. Yup, monkey goes squish.
You are now looking straight at Stanislaw Higginbottom. He has neither lights nor reflectors. Stanislaw just wasn't quite bright enough.
They said you dumb, dude. They said you dumb.
Which leaves Orville. He'll get fat, all right. And here's why he ended up with all these groceries that he doesn't really want. This was Rooty Toot Jasperson. Maybe you remember why he didn't make the picnic. He didn't signal, just once. Do you recall Tinkerbell McDillingfiddy? She forgot to watch the signals, just once. And good old Phil Flugel, he rode up the wrong side of the street, once. Mossby Pomegranate was the walking one.
There's some real monkey hate in this film. I know, right?
It would have taken him only a few minutes. The small one was Trigby Phipps, and his passenger was Slim Jim McGupney. They rode double into trouble. Who can forget Nelbert Swyback? She wanted to know one good reason why the sidewalks didn't belong to her. Then there was Filbert Bagel. He didn't take care of his brakes, so they didn't take care of him. And good old Stanislaw Higginbottom. No lights, no reflector, no Stanislaw. So that's why Orville Slump is picnicking alone today. He watched the signals, he obeyed traffic signs, he made hand signals, he rode alone, he stayed on the right side of the street, got a license, rode just like auto drivers drive, and kept the brakes and all in good condition. And he got fat. Of course, it was very lonely, but not as lonely as this. But then, as anyone can plainly see, he wasn't a monkey, right? Now, that sounds as if you really mean it, right?
Yeah, he wasn't a monkey, so he didn't die gruesomely. What the fuck? Why? Just... Oh, these things are good, Frog. These are good. Here we go. Human growth. Is this the one that we saw the other day? I think this is the one we saw the other day.
I was cut in a so style. Boy reached adolescence. See, don't bother George.
Yeah, I think this is the one we saw the other day.
Almost finished with that report, George?
Yeah, just about.
He's reading about Indian boys, adolescents like him.
Man, the audio on this one is bad.
Grow up. I'm just as grown up as you are, even if you are older.
Says who?
Mrs. Baker. She said that girls mature than boys.
I suppose if she said you were a genius, you'd believe
Yes, I would.
I think person and a very good teacher.
All the kids at school like her.
Here's something for my report.
Oh, what's that?
Only the grown people have clothes on.
Say, Mom, can I wear a skirt tomorrow?
Yes, Josie. I've almost finished hemming it.
Until they were in your clothes at all. The wearing skirts was considered a sign of sexual maturity.
That's interesting, George. And it ties in with the film Josie was telling us about.
Sure does. We saw that film last year.
I'm on the preview committee, Dad. I'm going to tell the class what to look for in the film.
Well, have you decided what you're going to say?
I'm going to tell them
47 or something like that.
the most important things to look for are the changes that take place in our bodies and feelings when we grow up.
Grow up?
That is, when we become adolescents.
We've used that word adolescent before. Who can tell us what it means? Dorothy?
Well, it's boys and girls just beginning to mature. It happens when they're about our age.
That's right, Dorothy. Are there any other points from the preview committee?
Yes, Mrs. Baker. Warren has a list of questions we'd like to project for the class to see.
That's good. Go right ahead, Warren. John, will you put out the front lights, please?
And her little dog
Human
too.
growth begin. How much does one grow before birth? Do boys and girls grow at the same rate? What are the main growth changes
Okay,
that
Carl.
occur during childhood and adolescence?
Mind you, this is from the
committee did
40s.
very well. The film we'll see this morning will give the answers to these questions. It will also show the earliest phases of growth, as well as the changes that take place during childhood and adolescence. It will help you to understand the way the cycle of human growth is repeated over and over from generation to generation. And now we're ready for the film. Lights.
Let's camera.
When we talk about growth, we usually think of growing up. But the long road of growth is not just up. If it were, it would mean that this little baby would someday look like this. Now, let's see how human beings really grow. Here are two average babies, a little boy and a little girl. In the course of a few years, they will reach maturity. During the first 3 years, growth is very rapid. The boy and girl become twice as tall and 5 times as heavy as they were at birth. By the age of 6, they have added still more height and weight. Notice
Oh,
that
hey,
the boy is a
me.
little
Like
bigger
a
than
big
the
baby.
girl.
What up, Mono? How you doing?
At 9, arms,
We're looking
legs,
at
and trunk
really,
have become
really
long and
old
slender, giving the
videos
body a
today.
slim appearance. At about this
A lot
age,
of them
the
are
girl
really
grows more rapidly
informational
than the boy.
too.
By 12 or 13, the average girl is taller and heavier than the boy, and
How
she
you
looks
doing,
more
Mono?
mature.
How's life treating you?
At 15, the girl's growth slows down, while usually the boy keeps on
At
growing
15,
rapidly
she
for
starts
another
getting
year
some
or so.
bobas.
When they reach their late teens or early 20s, they are fully mature people, with the boy again being appreciably
Doing
larger
good,
than the
applying for
girl.
jobs. Nice, dude.
By comparing the adult with the child, we can see the growth change. Notice that the adult face and head are less round, and the arms, legs, and trunk relatively longer. The boy's shoulders are broad and his body muscular, while the girl's body is more curved as well.
All them curves. All them
Growth
curves.
is controlled by tiny organs called glands within our bodies.
Been never in
One
the
of the
heat in
most
my area.
important of these is the
Same here,
pituitary
dude.
gland located in
Same
the
here.
head. It secretes chemicals into our blood. The chemicals are called hormones, and they regulate body growth. The pituitary hormone influences the secretions of other glands, notably the testes and ovaries, located in the pelvic region of the body. The testes secrete the male sex hormone, and the ovaries the female sex hormone. Presence of these hormones in the blood brings about many changes in the bodies of both boys and girls. And in the way they feel and act, too. For boys, hair begins to grow on the face.
Get that
For both
hair in
boys and
all the weird
Hair grows
locations.
under the arms,
All the
in
weird
pubic
locations.
region, and elsewhere on the body. The breasts of the girl begin to develop. The vocal cords of both boys and girls get larger and their voices deepen. These physical changes make the boy feel more manly and the girl more womanly. Both feel independent. They begin to be interested in members of the other sex, in social activities, and in being together. These are normal feelings.
And that's why they want to
In
boink all the
addition to
time.
hormones, the testes and ovaries produce the male and female sex cells from which we all have our beginning. The male cell, or sperm cell, is so small it can be seen only with a microscope. When we magnify the sperm cell many times, we see the head containing the nucleus and the tail that wiggles and causes the cell to move. The female cell, or ovum, while larger than the sperm, is still no bigger than a pinpoint. By enlarging the ovum many times, we can see the cell wall and the disc-like nucleus. When the sperm from the father unites with the ovum from the mother, growth begins. The nucleus of each sex cell contains the genes and chromosomes which determine the heredity of the child, his resemblance to his parents.
They
and
become
other
the booty wire. You damn right they do.
When a boy is between the ages of 13 and 16, the testes begin to produce sperm cells. These sperm cells are carried through the tubes in a thick, colorless liquid called semen, and at certain times are expelled through the penis. This happens during mating and sometimes during dreams in sleep. This is a normal function of the body.
This is a normal function of the body. Don't forget that.
In addition to the ovaries, the sex organs of the girl consist of the tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. When a girl is between the ages of 12 and 15, the ovaries begin to produce ova, or egg cells. About once every month, an ovum ripens and leaves the ovary, moving into the tube. While the ovum moves slowly along the tube, the uterus becomes richly supplied with blood to nourish the egg.
You should have saw the commie video we watched
But if
earlier.
the ovum doesn't meet a sperm cell, it fails to grow and is discharged. Some days later, the uterus sheds its lining and a little blood passes from the body. The bleeding decreases and in a few days stops completely. This process is called menstruation. The whole cycle begins again with another ovum ripening, usually in the opposite ovary. During early adolescence, the menstrual cycle may be quite irregular.
Oh yeah, the monkey film was
It usually takes a
interesting.
year or two for a rhythm to become established.
Oh, the monkey film was
we
educational
attain
as
sexual
well.
maturity. But all of us do not mature at the same
It was
age.
very educational.
These boys and girls, for example, are all 13 years old. Yet among them we see many differences in size and maturity. These differences and the fact that girls usually mature earlier than boys, both physically and emotionally, sometimes create problems. But by the time boys and girls reach their late teens, these problems will have been solved. Also, by the time they have completed their education, have steady jobs, want to get married,
I mean, I guess
and
that's
are
how you
ready
can
to
look at
accept the
that.
responsibility of
That's
having
not what
and
I
raising
learned
children,
personally.
the differences in sexual maturity will have disappeared. Human growth can begin only when the sperm cells of the father during mating pass from the penis into the vagina of the mother. The sperm cells use their thread-like tails to move into the uterus and tubes. If the sperm cells meet an ovum, and one sperm succeeds in breaking through the cell wall, fertilization occurs. The nucleus of the sperm joins with the nucleus of the ovum, and growth begins. The fertilized ovum begins to divide into many cells while moving along the tube to the uterus. There it attaches itself to the inner lining. Drawing its nourishment from the blood of the mother, it continues to grow and in a month looks like this. At 2 months, it is much bigger and is already beginning to look like a baby.
It's
You can see the cord which connects the baby to the mother and through which the baby receives its nourishment and oxygen.
Oh.
The uterus, which is normally not much bigger than a fist, is muscular and elastic enough to expand to many times its normal size. At 4 months, you can already see why this expansion is necessary. The baby now has arms and legs that move inside the mother. By 6 months, the baby has gradually turned to this head-down position in preparation for birth. The baby is very active now. It is not only the uterus that expands to accommodate the growing baby. Here you can see how the whole abdominal wall stretches. This baby has developed for 9 months and is about to be born. If the mother were lying down, this would be the position of the baby just before birth. You can see the mother's spine below the enlarged uterus.
At this time, the DNA test is
The
administered.
head settles to a lower position, and the muscles of the uterus
No.
begin to force the baby out. The muscle walls of the vagina expand to make room, and the baby's head begins to move out of the mother. The doctor lends a helping hand, and the new baby meets the outside world. Since the baby no longer has to depend upon its mother's blood for food and oxygen, the doctor ties and cuts the cord. The baby cannot feel the cutting any more than you can feel it when the barber cuts your hair. Growth continues, and this baby will become a full-grown boy or girl, and eventually a father or a mother, thus continuing the cycle of human growth.
Did they yank the baby out by its head? I mean, that's kind of how birth is done, right?
Lights, please.
Just basketball grip the head and it just comes out, right?
The principles of growth and development we've seen in this film apply to all human beings. Now let's begin our discussion by answering the first question from the preview committee. Who can tell us when human growth begins? Bill?
Growth begins when a sperm cell enters an egg cell.
Suppose the sperm cell doesn't enter the egg cell.
Then the egg isn't fertilized and it dies in a few days.
That's correct, Bill. Steve, do you have a question?
Well, it's sort of a silly question, but I was wondering why there's so many sperm cells and only one egg cell.
That's a very good question, Steve. Let's use the projector to explain it. Now, in the first place, remember that the male sperm cells are being produced all
Public
the time,
education today blows.
while only
It
one egg
does.
cell is produced each month.
It
That's
really
one reason
does.
there's so many more sperm cells than egg cells. Then see what would happen if there were only one or a few sperm cells. The ovum is produced here and moves into the tube. The sperm cell has to travel all the way up here to find the ovum. And if there weren't so many of them, the chances of the ovum meeting a sperm cell would be small. Lights, please. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yes, Mrs. Baker.
Are there other questions? Julie?
About menstruation, is it really normal for the body to bleed like that?
Completely normal, Julie. Remember in the animated film, the lining of the uterus became filled with blood with which to nourish the fertilized ovum. Well, when the ovum is not fertilized, there's no need for this nourishment. So the uterus merely sheds its inner lining, and naturally a little blood leaves the body at the same time.
Oh, I see.
Now for the questions the rest of you have. Carolyn?
Do boys have anything like menstruation?
You saying that because I didn't know they
mother
gripped it
tell
by
her
the head.
neighbor I was
Oh
born
my lord.
cesarean. What does that mean? Why don't all people have red hair?
What happens if more than one sperm cell enters an egg?
How long will it take till my voice changes?
Are girls always bigger than boys at 12 or 13?
Why do some kids grow faster than others?
I'd like to know more about different kinds of hormones.
Everybody says I look like my Aunt Sarah. Why do I have to look like her when I don't even like her?
All of those are excellent questions.
Those are excellent questions for
You
your
students
dad.
who've been watching this film, you've heard the questions we're going to discuss. You can discuss these same questions with your teacher, and you can ask any others you have in mind.
All right, so that's the end of that. We actually watched that on the Discord last Saturday with FML, and we watched a movie. I'm going to be doing movie night every single Saturday night at 7 p.m. just for people that don't know. The movie for this week will be Jason and the Argonauts, and be at the Discord 7 p.m. What's the next movie? What's the next movie? Next movie is this one. Molly Grows Up. Okay. So. Yep.
People came. I don't think the church could have held anymore. The whole church was lighted with candles. First wedding I've ever been to. And golly, you should have seen the bride. She had the most beautiful dress I've ever seen.
Oh, geez. I hope she doesn't get naked. Oh, shit.
We'll be late for school.
Uh-oh. Frog, what have you done?
Go now. Goodbye.
My goodness, Molly is certainly growing up.
What have you done, Frog? What did you give me? Fuck.
Hi, Miss Jensen.
Good morning, girls. How's your throat this morning, Molly?
Oh, just fine. It doesn't hurt at all anymore.
Well, you'd better stop by my office and let me take a look at it. It won't take a minute.
Okay.
I mean, she's like 14, 15-ish.
Okay,
Give or
Molly,
take.
let's take a look. Oh, yes. Oh, that's clearing up just fine. Going to the game tonight?
Oh, sure.
Will you please let someone else do the cheering for you? Because that throat is still slightly inflamed.
Okay, I'll be careful.
Oh, by the way, Molly, your mother left her gloves over at my house last night. Will you take them to her?
Sure, she's always leaving them someplace. See you later.
Okay.
What is this one? 14 minutes. Okay. So there can't be too much in this one.
You know, I've known Molly and her family ever since she first came to school. And I think you might like to know her, too.
Some people might want to get to know her more than
Molly
others.
lives at home with her father, her mother, and her older sister, Jeannie.
Jeannie and Lips. That's an older sister.
Jeannie and Molly each have their own rooms. But lately, it seems that Molly is more interested in Jeannie's room than her own. Molly and Jeannie get along, well, about as most sisters do.
Molly! What do you think you're doing?
I'm using your makeup.
Come in and...
Honestly, Molly, how many times have I asked you to leave my things alone?
Well, all I was doing was just...
And you didn't get all the lipstick off either.
Oh, I wasn't going to hurt your old things. I just wanted to try them.
Well, why don't you ask Mom for some things of your own? You're old enough now.
Jeannie, when do you think I'll start having periods, too?
Oh, I don't know. Pretty soon, I suppose. I was 13 when I started.
Well, Peggy's already started hers, and I'm 6 months older than she is.
Well, so what? Some start earlier and some later. We're all different. And from the way you've been acting lately, shouldn't be long now.
One day, not long after that, Molly came home from school.
So this is a movie about girls' periods, Frog.
That you, Molly?
I have no interest in this at all now.
Hi, what kind of a day did you have today?
I mean, it's so short, I might as well keep watching it, but
Mom, I started my first
there's
period.
no interest at all. I'm not a woman, don't give a fuck.
Come on, sit down. Tell me about it. When did it start?
Well, it was this afternoon when I was changing into my gym clothes, and I noticed a bit of blood on my panties, and golly, at first I thought, well, I didn't know what to think. And then I remembered when we talked about
Menstruation.
menstruation and stuff, and, well, then I went to see Miss Jensen.
Oh, my goodness.
You did say sex
How
ed.
do you feel?
I know.
Kind of funny-like. I mean, well, I was hoping it would start soon, but it seems like I've forgotten everything you've told me.
All right, I tell you what we'll do. Tonight will be mother and daughter conference night. And if you'll give me a hand with supper, we'll get started that much earlier.
Okay, I'll wash up and be right down.
Golly.
Golly.
It won't be long at all before you're quite used to it. You see, honey, menstruation is perfectly normal. It happens every month. Sit up, dear.
But why each month, Mom?
Oh, it's just part of being a woman, I guess.
Really, just
Of course,
because I
right
don't
at first
know
you
they
probably
grabbed the baby
won't be
by the
very
head.
regular.
Damn, man.
Most girls don't settle
We
down
were
for
thinking they
a year
grabbed
or
them
so.
by the arms.
Even then,
You don't
some
need to
girls go more
insult
than a month
me.
between periods and others less. That's normal.
Moni,
And
it's
eventually
actually
your
more
body will
like
set up its own regular time.
catching a football than it
Pick it
is
up,
like
Molly.
grabbing them like a
Oh,
basketball.
Mom, I'm comfortable.
Well,
Like
if you sit and
literally,
stand straight, that'll give the
they
organs inside
they
your body room to function.
sit their hands out there like catching a football, and they're like, "Woman, push," and they just keep holding their hands there, waiting for that catch, you know.
Hello?
Woman, push,
Oh, hi, Peggy.
and they just
Sure.
they gotta be there for that catch.
Can I go swimming with
Now,
Peggy
the bad part is sometimes they fumble, and that's when you know they got butterfingers, and they really shouldn't have been a doctor to
Good
begin with.
idea the first 2 or 3 days of your period. You might get chills and catch cold.
Oh, that's right. Peggy, of course I can't go swimming. You know I've got the curse. That's right. It isn't a good idea the first couple of days. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Good heavens, Molly, you're growing like a weed.
It's more like the
I'm
mother
gonna have to
pushes,
let
huh?
that hem down again.
No. The most important part is the catch. That's the important part. Because sometimes the mother doesn't even have to
I've
push.
often wondered why it is that some women
When I
still
think they
call
put pressure on their
menstruation
spine like
a
that.
curse.
I don't know. Peggy calls it that. And it is kind of a nuisance, isn't it?
I suppose it is sometimes. Just that it sounded sort of old-fashioned to hear you say it.
What are you two up to?
Oh, how are the pipes, Jim?
Oh, not bad. Something wrong with our aerial, though. We ought to be getting a better picture than that. What was all the talk about in here? Is this a private conference?
No, I don't think so. Do you, Molly?
No, I guess not. You tell him that.
Well, Jim, Molly's growing up. She's having her first menstrual period.
What? Already? Oh, but Alice, I thought... Well, I mean, after all, she's
oh,
only...
Daddy, don't be so silly. I'm not a baby anymore.
I know.
Yes, you are. You're a baby.
No. No, honey, I guess you aren't.
Growing up is fun, but some of the things Molly used to do seem a little silly now. Sometimes she gets all mixed up just thinking
Maybe watch
about
some birthing vids, Mono.
She's changing from a child into an adult.
I mean, we just
and
talked
it's
about
a little
it.
confusing at times. Molly had lots of questions about what was happening to her. It so happened I had a chance to answer some of them. Her teacher was sick one day and asked me to take her class. And this is true of women everywhere. So you see, menstruation is just the
You want to see
natural,
how an
normal
abortion
process
operation
leading up to
works?
being a mother.
Bruh.
This is a diagram of the uterus.
It's literally
or womb,
murder of a baby.
and these are the fallopian
Like,
tubes leading to it. And these the ovaries which produce the egg cells. Now these egg cells are far too small for us to see. But once each month, an egg cell will leave one of the ovaries, go into the opening of the
Like-
tube nearest to it. And then it's on its way to the uterus. Now at the same time, the uterus has been preparing a growing place for this egg, a soft lining of blood vessels and tissues. If the egg unites with a male cell or sperm as it's on its way down the tube, it is fertilized. And then when it reaches the uterus, it settles down in this soft lining and begins to grow into a baby. But if the egg cell is not fertilized, it disappears.
this is a sex ed part? Gotcha.
And then, since the lining is no longer needed, it too dissolves away. And it flows out of the body through an opening in the hymen, which is a membrane over the opening of the vagina. And so we say that we are menstruating. Yes, Barbara?
Miss Jensen, when does menstruation start?
Well, some girls start when they're 10 years old, and some when they're 16 or 17, or anywhere in between. But the average age seems to be about 13.
No, I mean what day of the week will it start? My mother starts on Tuesday. Will mine too?
Oh, it might, but it probably won't. Because each
Really?
girl's body sets up
That
her
is,
own
I
time
guess
rhythm.
that's an important
And the
question
time
for
between periods
someone
may
that
vary
young.
anywhere from 23 to 32 days. And the flow lasts from 2 to 7 days, also depending on the girl's own rhythm.
Miss Jensen, how often should you change napkins when you're menstruating?
Well, that depends on the amount of flow, but probably 5 or 6 times a day. And that brings up another point. Many of you girls haven't started to menstruate yet, but when you do, you will want to use a sanitary napkin to absorb the flow. It's a soft, absorbent pad, and it's made to fit over the opening of the vagina and to follow the curve of the body. The tab ends are attached to a narrow elastic belt, which you can wear around your hips or waist. Now, some girls prefer to use tampons. A tampon is a cylinder of absorbent cotton inside a cardboard applicator.
By
It's
the
inserted
way,
into the vagina by means of the applicator.
the tampon was invented by, and you guessed
Cotton
it,
absorbs
a
the flow,
man.
and when it is full, you remove it and discard it. Yes, Molly?
Miss Jensen, is it true that people can tell when you're menstruating?
No, it isn't. But you should be more careful than ever.
If you're not
about
interested in
personal
these, feel
cleanliness
free to
and
skip it.
change
I
your
mean,
underwear
it's
more often,
almost
and
over
be sure
anyway.
and use a deodorant. And pay more attention
I'm
to
kind of
your
looking
hair
for an
and your
abortion
nails,
vid while
and
this
plan to
one's
wear your
going, though.
prettiest dress. In other words, be your most attractive self. And remember, menstruation is only a part of growing up. As you grow, your body changes from that of a young girl to that of a woman. It's becoming round with the beginnings of a bosom and the start of a real waistline and hips. And hair is beginning to grow in different places, pubic hair and underarm hair. Yes, Anne?
Miss Jensen, what about dancing?
Wouldn't I have expected that?
Can you when you're
People can't
menstruating?
tell, but dogs
Yes,
can.
you can, with moderation. In fact, you can do most of the things you usually do. You can bathe or shower as long as you use warm water. And you can wash your hair if you're sure to dry it quickly. And you can swim if you wait until after 2 or 3 days after the beginning of your period. And you can go to dances and picnics. But it's not a very good idea to skate, or ride horseback, or play fast games like volleyball and basketball, or do strenuous dancing like square dancing, or anything that bounces you around a lot. In general, mild exercises are best. Ones that strengthen the abdominal muscles are particularly good. It's sensible to avoid strenuous exercise when you're menstruating. And you be sure and tell your mother or me if everything doesn't seem to be just right. Now, I'd like each of you to take one of these booklets about menstruation, and when you finish reading it, if you have any questions, be sure and come and see me. And remember, menstruation is as normal and natural as eating or breathing or sleeping. Soon, Molly will be a young woman like her Jeannie, having dates, going to dances in lovely romantic dresses, and making new and important friends. There are so many wonderful things to look forward to. Growing up. It's an exciting time.
But this is bullshit about only using. I mean, it is 80 years old ish. To make it sound like they're gonna break or freeze to death during their periods. Yeah. Drugs in our culture. Let's go. Wow, this is old too. This is from 34, I think.
I'm James Fadiman. On this program and on the 6 which follow, we will be exploring the world of drugs, the complex issues raised by drugs in our society.
It's in color.
And particularly the rising concern with drug use among children in elementary and junior high schools. Now you may say, this doesn't
early
concern
40s
me, or my children, or my community. But this is less and less true. We found that if you ask any child in this age range, do you know other children who are using drugs? The answer is usually yes. This was not true several years ago.
Don't do drugs, okay?
The change has been sudden, swift, and dramatic. Now there are a host of attitudes, points of view, and information that we're all exposed to on this subject. Some confuses us, some allows us to become complacent, some disturbs us, some is illuminating. School children hear them all and must make decisions.
Well, I think that there are actually two ways in which amphetamines, in particular, may be misused or abused. Perhaps the largest single group of drug abusers or misusers are housewives and truck drivers and professional people who use amphetamines for reasons other than weight loss or as antidepressants or treatment of narcolepsy.
Now wait a minute. You know
fucking hippies. Always getting stoned.
She won't let me in. I've got to feel this. I'm gonna buy myself a bottle of gin. And then I'm gonna call
Crappy Bobby Dylan song. Yeah.
on the telephone and say
This actually might be copyright song though. It might be. Possible. I don't know
And
though.
kids aren't stupid. They really know.
But that's
where to
definitely
get
a
drugs,
70s
and
song.
I feel it's easier to get acid or speed or something than it is to buy bubble gum in a store because you have to wait in line.
you know I work so hard all day long. Everything I try to do
Ray Charles.
turn out wrong. That's why I want to stop by
I mean, I'm not too familiar with the older generation of songs, so
There is a
could be.
relationship between the use of marijuana and the eventual use of heroin, apparently. I don't think it's a causal relationship, and this is not the reason why marijuana or cannabis sativa is in our statutes as a dangerous substance or as a narcotic or anything else. It is a dangerous substance all by itself.
We have found here in our area that one of the most effective approaches to young people is to chat with them about what kind of a person are we when the only way we can get kicks and the only way we can have a meaningful party, the only way we can get pressures off our backs, and the only way we can cope with situations is through a chemical, then we're not really much of a person.
I'm sick of your crying and moaning and sighing in spite of my trying to be a good wife. My wash is the brightest, my baking the nicest, my teeth are the whitest you've seen in your life. My energy's draining from all of this straining. You're always complaining and sticking the knife.
Maybe I'm being a little fastidious. Sorry I said that our marriage was bad. I could have said horrible, maybe you're hideous, but if I did, you would probably get mad.
He's being despotic.
She doesn't make sense.
I'm feeling neurotic.
I'm terribly tense.
I'm being rejected.
I'm always suspected.
What's his complaint?
She makes it with pain.
I'll go home to mother.
I'll find me another.
Was happy I ain't it.
I am sick of restraint. You hear my complaint with your makeup like that, and you're letting your figure go, figure go, figure go, figure go, figure go.
Wait a minute. Don't let nervous tension make you fit to kill. Take that little blue pill.
Okay. This also might be copyrighted, but you know, whatever.
My headache is clearing, my nerves disappearing, my tension is easing, I find you more pleasing. I'm losing my tension, my fists are unclenching, I'm living to live with and no longer am. I'm feeling so happy, so merry and snappy, I feel so excited, completely delighted, we're living in bliss. Now forgive me a kiss, now our marriage will say bye-bye to those who feel.
Two after dinner, you'll be a winner.
All of my mother, you'll need another.
3 when you get up, 6 when you're fed up.
4 when you're lazy, 12 when you're crazy.
Red pill, please. Was gone for a second. Was raging because my job app timed out and I had to start over again. Yeah, that's a huge problem.
Alcohol.
What kind of jobs are you applying for, though?
The hula hoop of the jet generation.
Thought this was about drugs when they go to Broadway.
As smoking corn silk behind the back fence. Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with a noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been a public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
I think a joint's a little bit more strong than a martini because, well, some people a martini can really throw them flying, but a joint usually always takes you high, gets you high, and a martini, you just feel a little bit better. You don't really get to the point where you can't drive a car or anything.
A lot of doctors, they recommend like a glass of wine or a small drink when you come home to relax you, but marijuana does a little more than just relax you, I think.
One joint wouldn't do all that much unless it was pretty powerful, but I think if you just wanted to relax a little bit, that's why a lot of people smoke. Just to relax themselves a little bit. I don't say if you're disgusted, go home and get stoned, That's not the idea. But I think some people drink socially, they call it, but I think a lot of adults drink just because drinks.
How long is this one?
Really not much different than teenagers.
29 minutes.
Today's
Kind of bored of
program
this one though.
will look at the pervasive drug influences in today's
Pull up the
America
next one.
with comments by experts on aspects of the drug problem. Later programs will look.
I literally lost track of what was even going on in that one because I was getting bored. Wish you the best of luck on your search, Mono. Yeah, Mono. Get that money, man. Get that money.
Popularity. What is it made of? How does a person get to be popular with lots of people and have a few close friends, too? Let's watch and see what makes people like one person and not another.
Hey, Jerry, there's that new girl in our math class.
What's this film now?
Oh, yes.
This is Are You Popular?
She's a swell kid. Why? You know her? Not very well. I wish I did. I don't know what it is, but there's something about her you like.
Well, she always looks nice to start with.
Yeah, especially when you compare her with some of the weird characters in this place.
Yoo-hoo!
Ginny thinks that she has the key to popularity, parking in cars with the boys at night. When Jerry brags about taking Ginny out, he learns that she dates all the boys, and he feels less important. What about Ginny? Does that make her really popular? Do the boys and girls like her? Is she welcome to join this group?
Hi, Betty. Ellie. You can rest your tray here, Ginny, for a minute.
Thanks. Say, Wally, how's the play coming along?
Oh, okay, Jenny. Here, Jenny.
No,
Thanks,
girls
Jerry.
who park in cars are not really popular. Not even with the boys they park with. Not when they meet at school or elsewhere.
Nothing like being Miss Popularity.
Yeah. Got some uranium. Okay.
Okay, Ellie.
Eat it right
Now,
now.
there's the girl that'd really get my vote.
Let's have to go over, huh?
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead,
Why
Ellie.
not?
Now, why do they invite Carolyn to join their group when Ginny wasn't welcome? Is it because they like the way she looks and dresses? Because she seems as interested in girls as in boys? Because they've heard no scandal about her?
Copper there.
Everybody, don't you, Carolyn?
Hi.
I've seen you around. Betty Richards, Carolyn Ames. Betty
She's very popular and passes social diseases around.
I looked in on
Yep,
yesterday.
she is totally a slut.
One way or another. I'm on the costume committee.
And Jerry and I are stagehands.
Two among a dozen or so.
How about you, Wally? Where do you fit in all this?
Oh, I'm a one-man team that does a job with no glory attached. I gather the props together, and boy, what a headache.
You sound like you need a helper. Could I lend a hand?
Would you? I mean...
I just want to suck your dick in the back
I
room.
don't know anything about props, but I could learn. Oh, I need some help too, Carolyn.
Hey, lay off. I saw her first.
Honestly, back in those days, that kind of shit probably didn't even happen. But if it was today, that's totally what would happen.
Props a little. Could you meet me backstage at 3:15?
Oh, that'd be fine, Wally. See you at rehearsal.
I think maybe I'll take Carolyn to the dance Saturday night.
Well, better go ahead and ask her. We could work out a double date.
Ah, Saturday's soon enough.
Hello. Oh, hello, Wally.
I was wondering if you'd like to go to the Strand to see a movie Saturday night, and then go over to Teen Town, maybe.
Well, yes,
Or if you'd rather go with the gang on a skating party and weenie roast. We'd have to leave earlier for that, though. But we get home at a decent time.
Oh, the skating sounds like loads of fun.
Reminds me of Back to the Future where Marty parked with his mom.
It shows he has thought about what Carolyn might like, and he has implied his price range. So
See you later, Mono, and good luck, man. Good luck.
Carolyn likes it better this way too.
Wish you all the muns getting that truck money, man.
Entirely up to her. It puts her on a spot.
All right, Wally. On Saturday at 5 then. Bye.
Well, that phone call didn't go on for hours. A pretty sensible attitude toward telephone conversations. Carolyn keeps a date calendar. Not a bad idea. She'll never have the embarrassment of forgetting a date or of being ready an hour too late. That's a good note to write yourself. Any night. But especially when you're getting ready for a date.
There, you too can do a manicure, Ellie. I might even know what to wear it with tonight if I only knew Phil dug up transportation to the dam. You sure you knew to phone me here at my house? I told him 3 times. I'll have to be getting home for dinner pretty soon. Take my advice. Think twice before you start going steady. Don't you ever go out with anyone else at all? No. Well, don't you ever want to? On nights like this, I do. I never know what he's planned. He just says, "Will you decide, Elvis?" I should think you'd run out of ideas. Well, I'm getting to that point. Hello? Oh, hello, Jerry. Oh, the props are coming along all right.
That's good. Hey, Carolyn, how about a date?
Well, I don't know, Jerry. When did you have in mind?
Well, what are you doing tonight?
I'm awfully sorry, but I have a date for tonight, Jerry. Tomorrow? No, I'm sorry. Well, call me early next week, Jerry.
Okay, Carolyn. Thanks
Did
a
you
lot just the
lose?
same. Goodbye.
Can you imagine that, Ellie? He wanted a date for tonight.
Sounds like you're asking her so late went over like a lead balloon, Mother.
Maybe so. Well, let's see what else we can do about tonight.
No, it isn't too promising for Jerry. But after all, it's no compliment to
He has a
any girl
boyfriend,
because she's late,
dumbass.
She thinks she's a very
Yep.
last resort. And sometimes a girl likes a chance to get ready for a date.
Yeah, you don't want to ask too late anyway. But here's the other thing. In today's age, women should be asking men anyway.
Hello, Wally. Come on in.
Hello yourself.
Like, if you are serious about trying to be with a dude, you need to just go ahead and ask him. Because in today's society, it just ain't going to happen.
I'd like you to meet
The
my
dude's
father.
not really going to ask.
This is Wally Johnson.
And it's mostly because
Hello, Wally.
dudes are just scared.
Here I am, darling. And
It's really what it comes down to.
That's right, Mrs. Ames. How do you do?
Well, it's nice meeting you. Oh, excuse me a second. I forgot my scarf. I'll be right back.
Don't let me interrupt your eating, Mr. Ames.
Thanks, Wally. I was just looking into the world of events before we go to dinner.
I tricked him into taking me out tonight. I understand you're having a little trouble with the props for the play.
Oh, not too many now. Much as I hate to admit it, though, Carolyn has hunted down a lot of things that we couldn't find anyplace.
Here I am, all set. Oh, Carolyn, I made some brownies today. Maybe you and Wally would like some when you get back. There's some milk in the icebox, too, isn't there? How does that sound?
Gee, that sounds good. We'll take you up on it, Mrs. Ames. Thanks.
Carolyn and her mother have found one way a girl can repay a boy for entertaining her. A bite to eat at her house will save him money. Perhaps they'll bring another couple home with them.
People in the
That would be
50s
fun.
were so stupid.
We'll be home.
It was a different time, Frog. It was a completely different
Wally
time.
and Carolyn are saved the embarrassment of the argument about coming in at night. That was settled before Wally arrived. The hour was decided after considering such things as where Carolyn and Wally are going on their date, whether tomorrow is a school day, and how many dates she has had recently.
Do you have your key, dear?
The family knows Carolyn will stick to her word.
All right. Have
Close to
fun.
your time than mine. Yeah,
I'll take good care of her, Mrs. Ames. Bye.
Bye.
this is very true.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You're old as fuck,
Wally
Frog.
felt at ease with Carolyn's parents.
You
and will be
shall
eager to
praise your
return to her
wisdom.
home. They liked him, too. He is proud to be with Carolyn because she looks well, is friendly with everyone, and is considerate of their feelings. She likes him for these same reasons, and also because he is fun to be with. Home, parents, and personality all help boys and girls to be popular.
But why is he popular, not me? That was kind of interesting. LOL. Another for the times. Okay. Don't be a sucker. See?
Henry here got on the train with $200.
Wow,
he
that
couldn't see any harm in a friendly game of cards. What if the other men were strangers? And take Joe Collins. He's got a nice wife at home. But he met this girl at the bar, and she looked, after the first couple of drinks.
In other words, she's not a bitch. Well, she could be a bitch. Just being honest, women from those times were definitely better in general. So, you got that going on for it, too. Oh, shit. Hooked up at the bar and then smacked over the head by the girl.
We call them suckers. And there are other people. People who
Don't be a
stay
snucker, okay?
figuring out how to take away what they've got. There are all kinds of games. My kid, for instance. He's got everything in me. He's young, he's healthy, got a job. And he's got plenty of food. Big factories to make things a man can use. Big cities to do the business of a big company. And people. Lots of people. Enough to work the farm and build the factories, dig the mines, run the business. All kinds of people. People from different countries with different religions, different colored skins. Free people. They can live together and work together and build America together because they're free.
It's okay.
Free to vote.
Don't really have that much
say what
on
they
me.
pleased. Go to their own churches. To pick their own jobs.
Okay, I need this automated.
All right.
Kind of bad.
He's got America.
Iron stick.
But there are guys who stay up nights figuring out how to take that away from him.
I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American. And some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this...
Wow, you're racist.
What's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
This fellow seems to know what he's talking about. What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church.
Do you believe in that kind of talk?
I don't know, makes pretty good sense.
He's a racist.
And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics.
Wow.
Without Freemasons. You know these people.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fellow's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
These are your enemies. These are the people who are trying to take over our country. Now you know them. You know what they stand for. And it's up to you and me to fight them. Fight them and destroy them before they destroy us. Thank you.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about... What about those other people?
That's the KKK party line? Honestly, didn't know that.
American people.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but
I've never really looked into what the KKK even believed, just because I never cared.
What were you doing there? I was a professor at the university. I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not so. You see, they knew that they were not strong enough to conquer a unified country. So they split Germany into small groups. They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation.
And that's what's happening right now in America.
They had to work hard to do it.
Splitting everybody into their own little tiny groups.
We human beings
And then their goal is to conquer them all after it's all split apart.
Made by someone who wants something. Remember that when you hear this kind of talk. Somebody's going to get something out of it. And it isn't going to be you. This is not classroom theory. I saw it happen. I saw it first in Berlin in 1932. 5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was
KKK is anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant to a lesser degree.
Was a Jew.
Interesting.
Heinrich owned a small hardware store.
I just thought that it was anti-black.
Karl was a farmer.
I guess it's anti-everything-ish.
Was an unemployed metal worker.
Huh.
To all Bohemian Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you. To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the Greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman.
And many, many killed Jews.
Now. The Jew. The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright. Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs. The Jew, he must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated.
Wow.
And the Catholics. We don't want our great nation run by a foreign church. We Germans will know what to do with these people when the time comes. They and their faith must be destroyed.
And the people are stepping back from... Wow.
In Germany, we have no place for secret societies. There will be only one society, and that is the Nazi Party. There will be no secrecy about that in the new Greater Germany.
One by one, he attacked each minority and he split them off one from the other. These men were all fellow Germans when they came here today. Now they were split into rival groups, suspicious of each other, hating each other. They were being swindled, all of them. But the man who was really being fooled was Hans. He was pure German, according to Nazi standards. To him they promised everything, and he fell for it. That's how Hans became a Superman. They gave him a uniform and they pumped up his ego. He wasn't just a little fellow out of work anymore. He was a member of the master race. Hans and thousands of others like him, all playing a sucker's game. They gambled with other people's liberty. And of
That's
course they lost their own.
really how this works too. You take a whole bunch of people with lower IQ.
There was lots of work.
Oh, it sounds exactly like CRT, dude.
Unions to be smashed.
But you take a whole bunch of people with lower IQ, you give them these topics, and just let them roll with it. And this is kind of what happened.
They were determined to smash every organization where people might band together and resist them. There were Jews to be beaten and killed. The Jews were not powerful, but they were a convenient excuse for all the nation's ills. And besides, a Nazi party member could not take over this man's store. Hundreds of Catholics were put in jail because the Catholic Church had strength and could resist the Nazi drive for power. They had split the nation into 100 pieces, and then one by one, they had destroyed the pieces. Over these broken pieces, the Nazis rode into power. One party, one nation, one religion. These men had won their struggle for power. They now ruled all of Germany. But still they had trouble with their oldest and most persistent enemy, the truth. They found that truth does not die easily, and so they decided to abolish truth. One great source of truth is literature. so they burned books. 20 million of them. Many great men in Germany who were spokesmen for truth were jailed or driven from their country. Teachers, writers, scientists. Education was discouraged. In 5 years, college attendance dropped 53%. It was forbidden to listen to a British radio program or read an American newspaper. In Nazi Germany, you had to get your information from Dr. Goebbels. He knew what was best for you. The church was one force in Germany still strong enough to proclaim the truth in public. This Catholic priest was arrested the following day on charges of immorality. The Protestant church also continued to try and fight for truth. The Nazis put this man in a concentration camp. There were others who spoke for truth, and I am proud to say that educators were among them.
And what, may I ask, is an Aryan? I don't know myself. But let us see what our present so-called authorities have to say about him. They say he is tall, slender, blue-eyed, and blonde. There is no Aryan race. And more important, there is no master race. There are people who may find these ideas convenient, but science cannot support them. There is no scientific proof that there's any correlation between a man's racial characteristics and his native ability or character. In all racial groups, we find the same range of potentialities. We find idiots and geniuses. We find criminals and philanthropists. We must judge each man as an individual and not by the color of his skin or his eyes or by the length of his nose. Come in, gentlemen. It's comfortable. And remember that there is no master race. That is a scientific truth. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying.
And so, for all practical purposes, truth had been abolished in Germany. A lot of my German friends wondered what had hid them. How did it happen? Where did it start? It started right here. And this was where it could have been stopped. If those people had stood together, if they had protected each other, they could have resisted the Nazi threat. Together they would have been strong. But once they allowed themselves to be split apart, they were helpless. When that first minority lost out, everybody lost out. They made the mistake of gambling with other people's freedom. Now let's see how those bets paid off. Karl the farmer was gambling on a better life for himself. What he got was extra hours of back-breaking work, as much as 100 hours a week. He was forced to stay on his land and produce what he was told to produce, because now Hitler was preparing for war. For Heinrich, who owned a hardware store, the bet didn't pay off either. 104,000 small businesses were closed in 2 years. And for Hans, conditions hadn't improved any. He had a job now in the munitions factory, but he worked long hours for little pay. The working conditions grew increasingly bad. And even though he didn't like the job, he wasn't permitted to leave it. And when Hitler decided the time was right, Germany went to war. Not by declaring war, but by a carefully prepared sneak attack. Once again, Hitler needed Hans to do his dirty work. Hans was an expert at brutality this time. And Hitler had decided to use Hans and his brutality against other peoples, the Czechs, the Poles, the French, the Russians. But in the crucial test of war, Hitler's race theories didn't pay off. His pure-blooded supermen were defeated by the mongrel armies he despised, by the British of El Alamein. By the Russians at Stalingrad. Then on D-Day by American soldiers of every color and religion, who smashed across the Normandy beaches and drove on through to the heart of Germany. For the misguided Germans who had swallowed the Nazi bait, the Nazi game did not pay off. The continent of Europe was strewn with millions of German bodies, pure Aryan bodies. Karl, the farmer, was left in the snow outside of Moscow. Heinrich stayed in Italy at Salerno. And Hans, who was going to rule the world, got only a little patch of Normandy that he could call his own.
We must never let that happen to us or to our country. We must never let ourselves be divided by race or color or religion, because in this country we all belong to minority groups. I was born in Hungary. You are a Mason. These are minorities. And then you belong to other minority groups too. You are a farmer. You have blue eyes. You go to the Methodist Church. Your right to belong to these minorities is a precious thing. You have a right to be what you are and say what you think, because here we have personal freedom. We have liberty. And these are not just fancy words. This is a practical and priceless way of living. But we must work at it. We must guard everyone's liberty, or we can lose our own. If we allow any minority to lose its freedom by persecution or by prejudice, we are threatening our own freedom. And this is not simply an idea. This is good, hard common sense. You see, here in America is not a question whether we tolerate minorities. America is minorities. And that means you and me. So let's not be suckers. We must not allow the freedom or dignity of any man to be threatened by any act or word. Let's be selfish about it. Let's forget about we and they. Let's think about us.
No, I went to the bathroom while I was listening to it. My mic was not off. That was a pretty good one. Detailed a lot of things that's happening today. Anyway, the strange ones. Here we go. Frog, hold up, Frog. Frog. The book burning has already started, though. The KKK is largely a bunch of inbred hicks. Today, yes. Back then, maybe not.
This is Karen. She is 8 years old, and she is on her way home from school. Every day she passes this store with a wonderful candy counter, and every once in a while her mother gives her a dime for a treat. And Karen always stops at the store, even if it's only to window shop. Of course, Karen's parents have told her never to take money or candy from a stranger, or let him touch her. But right now it looks as though she has forgotten these basic rules. But Karen's friend, the salesgirl, hasn't forgotten, and wonders who the stranger is that is buying candy for her, and why.
What the hell is this one about?
Karen, having already forgotten one of her parents' warnings, finds it easy to forget another. Never to go anywhere with a stranger.
The audio on this one is shit.
Rides with people you don't know, no matter what
It
they tell you.
sounds fine to me. What's wrong with it on your side?
This time, Karen is lucky. Her friend does what you should do in a situation like this. She takes down the license number of the car and the description of the stranger and calls the police. Her information is sent out by police radio.
Ah, there's some more iron.
To officers all over town.
Oh, yeah, it is on the left channel only.
So that they can be on the lookout for the
I didn't have the right side of my headphones on. That's why I didn't notice. I can turn up the volume a little, I think.
At home, Karen's mother is beginning to get worried. She is waiting.
That might help. Might not help.
Karen. She knows just how long it takes Karen to get home from school, but she is already half an hour late. So because Karen's friend remembered to take down the car's license number, everything turned out all right. And Karen, of course, knew her telephone number so that the policeman could call her mother right away to come and get her. My name is Mrs. Perkins, and I am a policewoman. We had a while to wait for Karen's mother to come and get her, so this was a good chance for me to tell Karen of some of the dangers children her age must be on the lookout for. Most people in the world are good and nice, but unfortunately, there are some strange ones. And these strange ones are sick. Not sick with a cold or measles or anything like that, but sick in the mind. We call them mentally ill. Now, many boys and girls enjoy playing in areas like this. They explore interesting places and make up games to play by themselves. But you never know when there might be a strange one around.
Beware the strange.
Sometimes we
They
become so involved
have
in what we are
great
doing that we
eyes.
can't see the danger. And even if this little boy had seen the man, how
This
could
is
he
rather
know that he
broad
was
in
a
its
strange one?
accusations.
There's no way to tell.
Yeah.
The strange ones look just like everyone else.
It's basically saying, hey, watch out for predators because they're
It is
everywhere.
wise to avoid playing in deserted areas like this, especially when you are alone. I explained to Karen that you should not play in any area where there are no other people around, and you must also be on your guard even when you are downtown. Like this little girl was running an errand for her mother. When the stranger stops her and asks directions, she politely and courteously gives him the information.
Person that they're saying anyone who is mentally ill is a pedo.
But when he asks her to go
I
with him,
mean,
of course she says no. Politely
they're
excuses
mentally
herself
ill if
and
they
goes
are a
on her
pedo.
way.
So it's not technically
Never go
wrong.
with strangers when they ask for directions. And if there is any trouble, just call out for help. And if you see any of your friends about to make a mistake, you can help. It's always a good idea when you go to the park, or the movies, or even to the store, to take along a friend. And when you are at the park, play in the areas that are set aside as playgrounds. Do not hang around the restrooms. And if you see any of your playmates about to get into trouble, get help from a police officer or someone you know. Just as these children did, they ran and found the little girl's mother. You not only have to look out for yourself, but for the little children who don't know any better and can't understand that some people are sick in the mind. There are so many ways you can get into trouble with the strange ones. And one of the quickest is by
The strange one.
It is a wise young man who knows not to hitch rides with strangers.
I'm just so
There are
weirded
many
out that they
things
call
that
them
can
the
happen
strange ones
other
instead
than
of
you're
calling
getting
them
a quick ride home.
pedophiles.
The man may be drunk and get into an accident, or he may be just a bad driver, or a strange one with no intention of taking you home. If you ever see any of your friends hitchhiking and cannot stop them, get the license number of the car. And remember not to take shortcuts, especially through alleys or empty side streets.
Yes, the strange ones will be there for you.
You never know when a strange one might approach you, and it may never happen, but it is far better to be on the safe side. Be on your guard and know what to look out for. Like this little girl in the movie theater. She remembers what her parents told her. Never let a stranger touch you or put his hands on you. She told the usher in the theater, and this man won't bother anyone again. I think Karen can see now how foolish she was. And if it hadn't been for a friend, remembering the right thing to do, how much trouble she might have been in. Karen will remember never to accept gifts or rides from strangers, and now she knows to stay clear of deserted places. Well, Karen's adventure has made her a wiser little girl, and I hope you have become wiser too.
I've learned not to mess with strange ones. That was a weird one. Alright, what else we got? What else we got? Naturally a girl. This is, you know, this is bannable material, but let's go.
Find two girls who are exactly alike.
Oh, this screams 60s. This screams 60s. Oh my lord. It's so much 60ish going on right now.
Girls are as different as people can be. Naturally.
But the usher killed them? No, the usher did not kill him. Feel free to skip it. Nah.
But sometime between the ages of 9 and 16, one very special event
I'm only
happens
skipping
to
ones
every
that
girl.
bore me.
I don't know yet. I haven't grown up all the way.
Well, you start developing and you start changing physically.
You start your period?
Boy.
All of that does happen.
And between 9 and 16, certain specific changes take place in your body. For one thing, a soft growth of hair appears under the arms and in the pubic area. This is true for boys as well as girls.
Turn down the volume again. Okay.
And this is the time when a girl's figure begins to develop. Hips fill out.
Still only in the left channel? I can't do anything about that. That's the video itself.
And it is now that girls start to menstruate.
Menstruation? Don't have to explain it. Don't you know?
A female cycle, it happens about every 28 days.
It happens to every girl. You have it every month. It means you can have babies.
Oh, I know what it is.
Something that all girls go through. You have it once a month. It's a natural process, and it enables you to have children. You took my line away.
All girls are born with a special place in their bodies.
Yeah, it is pretty campy.
Called the uterus. It's in the lower abdomen below the stomach. As a girl matures, a special lining of blood and tissue periodically...
Yeah, we're skipping this one. Screw it. That we've had several films like that already. What's this one? A Trip to the Moon. Nothing is beyond the dreams of mortals. Our audacity makes it even aspire to reach the heavens. Since the beginning of time, people have tried to escape from Mother Earth and have made flights in their imagination in other planets, particularly the moon. Since the beginning of time, way back in 1650, Friday devised his area of the vehicle for his journey to the moon. So this is going to be a video that I have to read. Got it. It's a 20s video. Abelza in Brazil invented a peculiar airship and insisted on June 24, 1709. He flew past the moon and caused a lot of excitement among its inhabitants. Okay. The airship of E.C. Kidman, the famous scientist. The airship, it is easy to see that his fame did not depend upon the It didn't even give me a chance to read that one. These good old silent films, man. Charles Gottlieb patented in 1840 a flying machine which he felt certain would reach the moon. Maybe he did. It looks like a flying whale. Oh, wow. It looks like a goat man with a rocket between his legs, and the rocket looks very phallic. Holy shit. How could we fly to the moon? The airplane is impossible. The balloon likewise. Skip ahead to the 1999. The German inventor has patented the following design: a machine propelled by the energy produced through the coil of a shot. The energy was created through the airship through dissolving certain chemical substances. I mean, that's kind of how we do our shit now. I mean, we make a combustion engine. Cross-section of proposed flying machine. On top, rooms for the pilot. In the center, machine room. Below, living and work rooms, cargo and fuel. Huh. Yes, yes, you're slicing it in half. Can we see the insides? That is a big-ass airship. That's more like a design for a spaceship, not something to get off of a planet. That's something you design and build in space. Holy crap. Now that our ship has been theoretically constructed, we start for the moon. You kind of skipped a few steps, though. Didn't you? I feel like you skipped a few steps. Wow, that is an impressive moon base. I'm not gonna lie, this old ass movie is actually impressive, bro. Halfway between the moon and the earth, the force of gravity of the moon returns to the machine to ground. Okay, okay. I'm sure whatever you say. Not lying, it looks pretty good. They have a clue about orbital mechanics, apparently. No, they didn't. I mean, this is the 1920s, so heard about this shit. Crater of Pluto and the airplane range of the moon. Okay. Interesting. They're just showing like theorized craters on the moon because they really didn't know it was there. Interesting. I mean, you said the moonscape was pretty accurate. It is pretty accurate-ish. I mean, they should have been able to at least see some of the craters and whatnot on the moon anyway. Historical moon and development of science. The shadow of the first ship on the Earth moon surface. Hmm. I'm not sure, but I think that is sunrise on the moon, sun glides at the high summit of the moon, in the Earth and a celestial hemisphere. I think there's like a hanging like hook or something in the background there. It probably is. That's what they're using to actually move the ship. If they crowd on us, little Earth more held to call for another Columbus to lead us in New World. I mean, we do have a new Columbus. His name is Elon Musk, and he needs to hurry up and get us to Mars. Come on, Musk, get us to Mars. I know you wanna. You just got to figure out how to do it. All right, that's the end of that one. What's next? What about prejudice? Okay. This one has music. And only 40 years later, we did go. Yes, we did. And that actually was a huge, like, bring together for the country. And we need something like that again. Like, we need to be proud as a country again for something that we as a country did. I am not reading all of that. I am not reading all of that. That's a lot of big old blocky text really quick that you have to read.
This is the story of Bruce Jones, who walked in a shadow of hate and suspicion. The shadow of what he was because of his background, over which he had no control. This is also the story of the people who knew Bruce, or thought they did. There were many of these people, and they were different from each other in many ways.
I don't know why they let people like him go to our school anyway. And I'm not the only one. My folks don't like it a bit.
Boy, my dad made it plain I wasn't to associate with him. How are you going to keep from doing it?
If I was prepped for it, I would have did that, but I just slept.
That's what I say. There ought to be some way to avoid it.
I wonder why the school hasn't kicked him out. I bet he makes terrible grades.
Don't get your hopes up on that score. Bruce is no dumbbell. There's nothing the school can do for as long as he makes his grades, Bruce will be with us.
What I can't understand is why he'd want to be with us. Wouldn't he be doing himself a big favor to quit and get a job?
Nah, who'd hire a guy like him? Besides, what can Bruce do? Well, we may as well face it. He's here and we're here, and all we can do is stay away from him as much as possible.
The people who knew Bruce agreed that it would be better to shut the door to any efforts he might make to be one of them, that singly or as a group, they should avoid him. But it wasn't always possible to avoid Bruce.
Why are they trying to avoid him, though? I don't understand.
Ed Reeves and Bruce Jones are fighting.
But Bruce would make two of
Oh,
Ed.
he's fighting.
What would Ed want to tackle him for?
Well, he didn't.
Well, fuck you all.
Boy, this Bruce Jones was just standing on the corner, and Ed walked by, and Bruce charged at him like a bull.
Why? What for?
Oh, who knows? Gosh. Then he just went away and left him lying there. Didn't even stop to see if he was hurt or anything. There he is. How you feel, Ed? Hi, boy. You okay? I'm all right. You sure? Yeah.
What can you expect with Bruce's background? Golly, this'll
With
get him
Bruce's
expelled for
background?
sure.
Oh my.
I can't see
Okay,
why
that's
Bruce would do a thing
prejudice
like
as
that
fuck.
without some good reason.
I bet it's his fault.
The apparent case against Bruce Jones was a strong one. He was different from his classmates, so no matter what happened, Bruce was suspected of the worst.
Who is Bruce?
Well, I could have sworn. What'd you say you lost? Oh, my green sweater. I left it in here first hour. Right over the back of this chair. Well, it's not here now. I guess I might as well check lost and found. A coat sweater? Yeah. Brand new? Yeah, did you see it? Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't know it was yours. I saw it over the arm of Bruce Jones as he walked out the door. Well, that dirty crook, we can't get away with that. Hey, come to think about it, I'll bet that's what happened to my good pen.
Ah, the audio is bad.
Oh, they'll expel him now for sure. Hey, Joe. Yeah? See what happened?
Circumstances pointed to Bruce Jones. This is how it always seemed to work out. Bruce was in trouble. Even on the night of the class party, Bruce was to become the topic of conversation.
I don't know about you, but I think this is the best party we've ever had. No
Boy,
kidding.
there is. Right.
Everyone's in the mood.
Good Lord.
Maybe it's because there hasn't
Have
been
they
anything tonight
shown
to get us out of
Bruce
the mood.
yet?
What might
I don't think I've seen
You know
him
what
yet.
I mean. The undesirable element is missing.
It's a good thing, too.
I'm sure glad Bruce didn't come tonight. He's not like us.
Okay,
He
bro.
never will be.
That's right. Boy.
Well, that's
John, the most awful things just happened.
What is it?
I just called Mother. Oh, it's too noisy in here. I can't play. Come outside. You I just called Mother to tell her I'd be a little late. She heard it on the newscast. Tom and Carol have been in a wreck. Tommy!
Oh, my gosh, well, what happened?
They skidded into a bridge, and the car caught on fire. Oh, how awful. Were they badly burned? They would have been, if it hadn't been for Bruce.
You mean Bruce Jones?
Yes, Bruce Jones. The bridge was the one near his house. Evidently, he heard the crash. He ran out and saw that two people were trapped inside, and that the car had caught fire back by the gas tank.
Oh.
Fire.
Well, did he know it was Tom and Carol?
I don't know if he recognized Tom's car or not. They say that Bruce practically tore the car door off by brute force to get Tom and Carol out. He got Carol out all right, but as he was helping Tom, the gas tank exploded. Tom wasn't hurt much, but Bruce was burned severely. I feel so
Ew.
sorry for Bruce.
Well, this is a switch. A week ago, you were up in the air about having to go to the same school with him.
No matter what I said, I feel sorry for anybody.
We still haven't seen him yet, have we?
Well, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and act as if this changes anything.
Now listen, Bill. You're not being fair. After all, Bruce was badly hurt. He didn't have to go into that fire. Probably didn't even know who was in it at the time.
Well, even if he did know, Bruce had little reason to risk his neck.
Especially after all the mean, prejudiced things that have been said right to his face. I'm a fine one to talk. Why, just a minute ago. Do you suppose there's anything we can do to help? They said that he was on the critical list. Maybe he needs blood. Do you think we ought to go to the hospital and see?
Well, I'm going back to the party.
Come on, let's go.
Research feet.
I wonder if Bruce would want my blood after what I did to him.
What you did to him? But he hit you, didn't he?
Yes, but you don't know the whole story. I had it coming. I used to needle him all the time. I'd sing that song so he'd be sure to hear it. You know the one I mean. Well,
okay.
that day I walked by Bruce whistling it again. I guess it got under his skin and he just couldn't take it anymore.
Golly, then he didn't just jump you for no reason.
I don't think he knew what he was doing. But I did, and I told the principal the whole thing. That's the reason Bruce is only on probation. For that matter, I am too.
It's funny. I never stopped to think there could be a Bruce's side to it. I just never really thought of Bruce at all.
Whoever did. I was ready to accuse him of stealing my sweater the other day, and I would have, but when I got to the office to report him, well, there it was, where he'd turned it into the lost and found. If anybody else had been seen with it, I wouldn't have worried so much, but because it was Bruce,
Because it was Bruce who did what we've all done. We've put a brand on him for something he couldn't help.
I'm still trying to find out who this Bruce dude is. Why are they always after him?
Well, let's go see how bad it is.
There's going to be something
This
racist.
trip to the hospital could be the first step for these students at East High toward tearing down the false barriers which their own bias and prejudice
I
have
need to
built.
make engines.
But will it work? Each of these people must find the answer only through re-examination of his own feelings and attitudes. For this is the problem of the individual more than of the group.
If Bruce doesn't make it, how'll I ever be able to face myself after all the things I've done to him? Things I'll never be able to apologize for.
Bill was right in a way. This doesn't really change any of the reasons why we didn't accept Bruce into our group. I just hope I can somehow work out a new set of values to judge him by in the future.
This is the fellow my folks didn't want me to have anything to do with. I wonder if what Bruce did will make any difference to them now. Will they be able to understand why I have to help him, if I can?
I can't help thinking this is the right thing to do. But it is a fast switch. Have I let sympathy head me off into something I won't be able to live up to?
Am I just reacting to an emergency? What'll it be like when the emergency is over? Bruce won't be any different, but I guess I'll have to be.
The thing is, it wasn't Bruce at all. I was the one, neatly fitting people into categories because of where they go to church, or what their fathers do, or what the color of their skin is. You hear about other people's prejudice,
Welcome back, Frog.
but you never feel guilty until you realize it's you. You're the one who's prejudiced.
What was it,
Prejudice
after
is
all,
what
that made
prejudice
these
does.
people do the things they did? Was it a lack of understanding? Was their attitude picked up from their prejudiced parents? Or was it simply a matter of going along with the attitude of the group? What is prejudice? And why does it exist?
It simply exists because of fear of other. This has been a long known fact, and it will never go away. However, you can combat it with knowledge. The more knowledge that is available, the easier it is to deal with it. And I don't think we saw who Bruce was that entire film. I'm gonna skip around that film real quick just to see if we can see who.
Boy, my dad made it plain I wasn't to associate with him.
How you gonna keep from doing it? Sitting in the same classrooms association, isn't it?
That's what I say.
That singly...
Wait, this... Oh, who knows?
No, you never actually get to see who he is. Interesting. Anyway. Here we go. Here's the next one. This is a long one, Frog. No, we'll save this for next week. We'll save that one for next week. That was a long... What about this one? Hey, here we go. Boop. Had a phone call. My friend in Texas said their local team played the first half in 2 hours and had 50 penalties for 250 yards. They left a hat fine. Bruce is unidentified to portray any kind of person. Yeah, that's what I was kind of figuring, but I wasn't sure. I was just wondering if they actually showed who it was. Because it literally could have been anyone. Which I've been okay with.
It wasn't so long ago in the history of man's voyage toward a better world that ships were carrying eager passengers toward the shores of a new nation that was just in the building. Our forefathers were constructing the foundation of this nation by interlocking inseparably the blocks of our political and economic freedom.
What's this one? This one is... It's Everybody's Business. Little cartoon.
The way of life our forefathers established on this foundation of freedoms drew people from the far corners of the earth. And all those who set foot on these shores had the opportunity to build a better life for themselves. Even young Jonathan, an unskilled lad from across the sea, hoped to find a job where he could progress according to his ability and enterprise.
Probably the same serious as Make Mine Freedom. Got you.
As the years passed, Jonathan's earnings increased. But he still felt that for a man of his skill, it was about time for another raise.
Like to bargain with the employer?
Am I not the best crown rounder and brim trimmer in ye business? And verily, methinks I am worth more moolah.
That you are, Jonathan. I'm sorry, lad.
No raise, Mr. Bless Gravy? I quit. Sales and profits down. Phooey, I could run ye business better myself. Hey, why not? My own business. All you need is a little capital, a little push, and an idea. Yeah, an idea. Let's see.
So I said to him, I wouldn't wear that hat to a dog fight. Why, there isn't a decent hat in the entire village.
Oh, speaking of my own business, my little journal thing is actually selling pretty decently, Frog. And I was not expecting it to. I just put my logo on it.
Fortunately, Jonathan was thrifty enough to keep a little nest egg for such an emergency.
But I've sold 20 copies of it in, what, 2 months?
And there was nothing
A
left
hell of a lot better than I thought it would do.
and equipment.
I wasn't expecting to sell any.
But happily, Jonathan had a good reputation. And
The little journal thing? All it is a weight loss journal.
Willing to invest some of their savings in his new business.
It basically, it's a weekly measurement thing. So you measure your arms, legs, waist, etc. And then it's a daily entry for your weight and the calories of what you consume every
Before
day.
long, Jonathan was open for business.
You don't have to list out what you ate, it's just the calories that you ate. And you total up your calories for the day.
Ladies, get that new hat drill.
Yep.
30 days to pay your bill.
As an expert salesman, Jonathan demonstrated the superior style and quality of it.
How much does it sell for? $5. It's a small journal.
He set a price for his creations that the consumer was willing to pay, and sales dollars poured in from satisfied
There's like
customers.
nothing to it. It's mostly blank pages, basically.
Jonathan had big dreams of the wonderful rewards of being in business for himself. But before he could buy what he wanted,
But I mostly had it
employees'
designed.
wages had to be paid.
I did the design for it because I wanted it, because I want to use it. What's my net?
Friends who helped finance the business had to be paid a return on their investment.
I think it's like,
When all of his bills were paid,
I have to
Jonathan had
look, but I think it's like
exchange his big dream
125 or something.
for a little dream.
Mesdames, mademoiselles, it is the privilege of Alphonse, hat stylist to all the grand heads of Europe, to bring you hats with style so chic, a quality magnifique, and a price, ooh la la, so low. Come one, come all to the grand opening.
To meet competition, Jonathan had to plow part of his profits back into the business to develop a better hat. If customers approved the quality, style, and price of Jonathan's new designs, he still could
Not
make
too
his
bad.
dreams come true.
I mean, the fact that I'm making any kind of money off of it is more
Foundation of freedoms,
to the testament that I made
the
something
dignity of
decent,
the
you know.
individual and his family,
I wasn't really trying to make anything that people would want. I was just trying to make something for myself.
and promised anyone with with
And I just got my journal
The
here
opportunity
like
to
a couple of days
participate
ago, and
in
I've
the
already
building of
started
the
using
American
it.
way of life as we know it today.
But I made it for myself. I didn't really make it for
A
other
way of life
people.
that depends upon millions of thrifty Americans who send a portion
I was
of
like,
their
eh.
savings to work in our business system.
I've looked at these other journals. They don't have what I want. Let me do something that I want.
People from all walks of life,
Playing on Twitter and Facebook, etc.
farmers,
Uh,
housewives, all of us
that takes
send our
effort.
dollars to work
I
in our
don't really
business
care.
in the hope of earning dividends or interest on our
I
investment.
legit just don't care. Like, if I was to do a legit journal where I would actually want to publicize it and everything, I would put like a daily word to learn and how to use it in there, and a little brain teaser to keep your brain going.
And equipment, and create new job opportunities for our expanding population.
But as I said, I literally just did it just for myself.
All over the country. While the Main Street of
so I
today
gotta-
doesn't look much like the Main Street of Jonathan's time, the principles of our business system remain the same. For businessmen still compete with one another for the consumer's supply of spendable dollars. And Mrs. Consumer is still mighty critical of everything she buys.
Uh-oh, competition.
The management of every business has a continuing problem to improve their product to stay ahead of competition, or else.
More details on these things. They used to look like slugs. Now they kind of look like crustaceans on land. Which is still weird.
Okay, men, this is it. Quick Chill's got the ball. We've got to get it back. Give them that new product play. More style, better quality, new features, and at the right price. Hit the line, men. Let's go.
Micrometer, wrench, file, caliper, slide rule.
In addition to creating a
Much
better
iron's here?
product, management develops
million
new tools and more efficient methods to help workers turn out more boxes to sell at a price Mrs. Consumer will pay.
Slide rule, geez, these are old. Yep.
The new features about this better product are advertised to point out its competitive advantages.
The Auto Magic Permafreeze, with plenty of room for groceries galore. The Auto Magic Permafreeze, with a super duper store-o-matic door. Just press the button for your ice, a feature that is new, and extra space all over the place for other items too. In the Auto Magic Permafreeze, so see your dealer right away. Get a Permafreeze today.
Ah, yes, dear lady. Permafreeze is your kind of refrigerator. High quality at a low price.
Sales dollars from satisfied customers once again flow back to Permafreeze. A successful business must have enough sales dollars coming in to enable management to pay the expenses of doing business, such as salaries and wages, materials and supplies, research and product development, plant maintenance and repair. In addition to all of these bills, management has to pay taxes to local, state, and federal governments. Any money that's left over is known as profit. Wise management plows part of it back into the business. The remainder of the profit is paid out as dividends.
Dividends are a nice thing to get. Not gonna lie.
These dividends are sent back to investors as a reward for risking their savings in the American business system. Although occasionally some of us pick a lemon and have to take a loss.
By the way, I have about
The constant
$70,000 or
investment of our
$80,000
through
worth
good times and bad
in dividend
has enabled our
stocks,
competitive business system
which
to
makes me
continue to increase the
roughly
production of more and better goods
a
to meet the
thousand,
demands
give
of
or
our
take, a
rising
year.
population for a better standard of living. For example,
I mean, if you keep doing
only
that
a little
over
more than half a
time,
century ago,
you can literally make
the
an
average
entire
worker had
wage
only
just off of
inefficient
that.
tools to help him turn out a product.
But it does take quite a
Low
bit,
production meant low
unfortunately.
wages. In 1900, many men had to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, to earn enough money to provide their families with the bare essentials.
The
And
bare
labor was the rule
necessities.
in the home as well as the factory. In many families, the youngsters had to work to add their earnings to the family budget and forego the opportunity to get an education. And with most families in those days, the standard of living left much to be desired. A half-century later, we had invested enough in our business system to provide the average worker with efficient and expensive buildings and machinery to enable him to produce enough in a 40-hour week to earn twice as much as the 1900 worker earned in a 60-hour week. This shorter work week gives us all more leisure time to enjoy a standard of living
can still build
beyond the
two.
wildest dreams of anyone who lived a half-century ago. The more we earn, the more our families have to spend for the things they need and want. Young people today have leisure time for fun and enjoy educational opportunities denied their fathers and grandfathers.
Some of these are simply teaching capitalists and economics, very useful. Yeah, that stuff like this is very informative, and
we
I'm
have been
all
able to
for
raise our standard of
everybody
living
learning about
without
them, honestly.
sacrificing the spiritual side of life, which means so much to the American family. Our business system has continued to provide a better life for our increasing population, in spite of destructive forces which have pounded against our foundation of freedoms with no avail. However, wars, or the threat of wars, interrupt the normal operations of our competitive business system. And may result in government controls which crack essential blocks in our foundation of freedom. In World War II, wages were controlled.
Really? I didn't know
Many
that.
workers were frozen to their jobs. Farm prices were controlled. And profits of business were limited. Raw materials were allocated between essential and non-essential business.
Really?
On Main Street, USA, many of us found less to buy.
These are
because a good
things
portion
that
of our productive
I did not
capacity
know
went to the
happened
war
during
effort.
World War II.
Prices were fixed, and the available supply of goods was rationed. In war emergencies, we allow government to restrict certain of our freedoms. But we Americans have learned to remove government controls as quickly as possible and to repair the blocks and the foundation
Which
of
we
our
never
freedoms
did after 9/11,
to
by
allow
the
our
way.
business system to resume its normal operation. While we invest part of our savings to help finance the world's most efficient business system, at the same time we pay taxes to government to finance many kinds of services, which also contribute to our way of life. For example, our taxes must provide the necessary funds to improve and expand our school system. Our taxes must be sufficient to pay for city streets, health, fire, and police protection, and of course, aid to the needy.
The New Deal? Ugh.
Our state taxes help pay for highways, educational institutions, and among other things, help to finance important experiments to increase the productivity of our farms. Our federal taxes pay for irrigation and reclamation projects, for national parks, postal services, the Weather Bureau, and many other services. Our taxes have to pay for the enormous cost of past wars and provide the funds for a defense program which will ensure the safety of our country. In addition, all of us should be willing to pay whatever taxes are necessary to enable efficient government to improve or expand any essential service. But with our present tax load, we should avoid pressuring government for any new services that aren't absolutely necessary. Because we all know the more our government provides, the more taxes it's forced to collect.
And taxation is theft. Stop stealing my money.
None of us can escape. Big business.
Wow.
Small business. Farmers.
That is one way to do it.
Workers.
Damn, just take his clothes. Holy shit.
Demanding more and more from government could create a tax burden heavy enough to crack essential blocks in the foundation of our business system.
And that's what people keep warning about.
Let our taxes reach a
Yet
point
we
where
keep trying to
destroy
do
our
it.
ability to save and invest. For as we have seen, our rising standard of living depends upon a constant flow of savings dollars into our business system each year.
Like the collection sound in Star Control 2. Yep.
In the future of our country, waves of destructive forces will continue to batter against our foundation. When any force weakens the interlocked blocks of our political and economic freedoms, as good citizens, we must be quick to use the tools our Constitution gives us and repair any cracks that may appear. As long as we keep the foundation of our business system strong, we shall be able to maintain and improve the way of life our forefathers conceived and established. A way of life which gave everyone who came to this country the chance to progress according to his ability and enterprise. Like the youth of yesterday, the young people of today deserve the same opportunity to earn success and accomplishment. And on this foundation of freedoms, continue to build a better life for themselves and their fellow man in the world of tomorrow.
Interesting. And this is the one that caught my attention, and this is going to be the last one. Experiments in the revival of organisms? What?
I should like to tell you that I have seen some of the experiments shown in this film actually carried out at the All-Russian Physiological Congress. As you can imagine, technique is everything. Besides such work as you are about to see, Bryukhanenko shares the credit for the methods of human blood transfusion which were first developed in the Soviet Union and are now practiced in this country, which have saved so many lives during the war. What enabled Soviet scientists to solve this problem?
It's a
Long ago,
1940s Soviet
science
film.
established the fact that
Seems
animal
to be.
organs and tissues isolated from the whole organism can be maintained in a living state. But in order to achieve this, special artificial conditions must be created. Isolated organs can be brought to life even though they've been removed from the animal's corpse some time after death. Here's a dog's heart.
Wait, what? Are they?
It can function as well in artificial
Wow.
conditions as in a living organism. And for this purpose, blood is introduced into the cardiac vessels. The isolated heart beats just as it did a few hours previously in the living dog.
That's kind of fucked up, but interesting. I'm sure they use this kind of technology, this information and whatnot, for transplants now. The same like ideas behind
The
this.
following experiment is conducted on lungs taken from an animal. Bellows distend the lungs and fill them with air. The venous blood is forced into the lungs by the action of the pump. The dark venous blood passes through this tube. In the lungs, it takes up oxygen.
I repeat.
And becomes
Oh my
arterial.
fucking god! I mean, it is what it is.
The isolated lungs breathe, producing the same chemical changes as in the living animal. An animal's head can also live in the isolated condition. Here is a plan of the experiment. The arterial pump takes arterial blood from the reservoir to the head, while the venous pump drains off the venous blood. The blood is arterialized in the reservoir, where there is a steady flow of oxygen.
Wait for the oh my fucking god part. Do I really want to know? Do I really want to know?
The artificial blood circulation ensures the metabolism necessary for the life of the head. The isolated head lives on for hours and reacts to external stimuli.
Dude, no. No, I'm done. No, I can't do that. Nope. 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 I don't care who you are, but you don't fuck with the dog like that. If I ever, and I will say this right now for everybody involved, if I ever came across somebody that did something like this, they would not exist soon after. You can leave it up to your own imagination of how that will happen. That's just no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. I'm good. Now you know why, oh my fucking god. Yes, now I know why, Frog. Mm-mm. I don't know if I'm ready for bed now. I was fully intended on, you know, rating somebody after that and going to bed and everything, and it's just that image cannot leave my brain. And now I feel compelled to show some other people, just, you know, to have them share my misery. And the worst part about this, Frog, is the dog that they use looks very very similar to the dog that I have. Probably the police photos at the end of the first round are on the list of the worst. And that was the last video. The police video was going to be the last one, but I can't do anymore after that. That one was, I'm glad I left that one for last, because if I did that one as one of the first ones, I would have just been done. I would have ended stream early. That was bad. That was just bad. That was bad. Like, I can't even think properly right now. Thinking about murdering some people that are probably been dead for like 60 years, 70 years because of a fucking, oh my lord. And people wonder why we hate commies. I don't wonder why we hate commies. I know why we hate commies. Like, I know for a fact why I hate commies. And I didn't need to see something like that to understand that. I thought it was going to be like a nice, like, theoretical video, not something that was intimately applicable. I can't say that word. Applicable? Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Something where they actually showed you what they were doing. Not, I thought it was going to be a theoretical, not a let's show you what we're doing. Oh my lord. All right. Let's raid FML. Fuck it. Damn it, Frog. That's all I gotta say about that one. Just damn it, Frog. We will be back tomorrow morning-ish. For some Castlevania. I will probably start around noonish or so. But yeah. Tomorrow, Castlevania. I'll see y'all then. Later, dudes.